पिछले 3 सालों में बिना इंश्योरेंस के ड्राइविंग का केस भी ऊपर ना हो। पिछले 3 सालों में लाइसेंस सस्पेंड करने।
नमस्ते, आदाब, सत श्री अकाल। मैं डॉक्टर आनंद अभी तक आपको हिंदी में बता रहा था. I've got guests who can speak English. Therefore, we'll switch to English now. Very good afternoon to you and welcome everybody. I want to carry on this Uber debate for a bit before we get into other topics. We've got some very important people in the studio. Basically, Uber is a ride and share taxi service in San Francisco. You might wonder why the Delhi rape has anything to do with it whatsoever. Basically, this has been a transport service, but unfortunately, it's become worldwide. And I say unfortunately because first they started with full-size luxury cars for hire. It was called Uber Black. And the company has really flourished, and it's in 200 cities in the world. However, in December, there was one famous rape. Just like 2 years ago in India, one girl was raped horrendously, and it has changed slightly the psyche of Indian males, because we'll talk about misogyny as well. A taxi is a very dangerous place for women. Therefore, the taxi's antecedents, the taxi driver's antecedents, all must be taken into account. Uber is not bothered. Now, you'll be very happy to know that Thailand, Spain, France, and England are places where huge protests are taking place. In India, Delhi, the taxi service has been banned. Let me tell you about this driver. In his younger days, he was beaten so badly because of molesting women in his village that he's deaf in his right ear. He then is never police checked. He produces a fake certificate. I can print a certificate and sign as the police commissioner. Unless you check it out, he's not the police commissioner, it's me. Similarly, he had a fake certificate. His car is not MOT'd. His car was not meant to be driven in Delhi because he didn't have a Delhi license, but that's just a technicality. But the guy was in jail for 7 months for a rape. They couldn't prove it. You know what lawyers are there for, to make money. And they'll get rapists and pedophiles off the hook. And they think they're doing a great job for society. I'm not about innocent people being punished, but I'm definitely not about people waiting for trial for ages, as I've seen certainly in India in Tihar jail. There's 13,720 prisoners, 70% awaiting a trial because lawyers are making money in the meantime. So coming back to Uber, this guy, everything wrong. This woman, 27, pretty, young, in a multinational company in Gurgaon. It all reeks of trouble because she's not used to bad men. She goes to a party at 10 in the night, comes home about 11:30, presses a button on Uber, in comes the picture of Ram Singh Yadav or some idiot like that, and the taxi thing. She's drunk, remember, she's sleepy, she gets in the taxi, she drives, gives her address, and the fellow starts driving. He's glowering at her through his rearview mirror, finds her sleeping, takes the taxi elsewhere. I personally wouldn't fall asleep in a taxi, though I'm a bloke, but this woman unfortunately did. He then stops the taxi, starts molesting her sexually. She comes awake slightly, starts stopping him. He slaps her several times. He bites her. He actually bites her. And there's blood on her clothes from his bite. This animal should be hanged in Connaught Place, but never mind. Now, all this I'm saying is because there is no check. The police took 12 hours finding the office of Uber in India. Would you believe this? Delhi police is not that stupid. And they've got DNA, they've got clothes. And again, lawyers, how cute they are. One fellow is saying without DNA testing and all that, but they've got the clothes of the woman and that. I take my hats off to this unknown lady. She has again changed the history of India. In the studio, we have ex-taxi driver by experience, my friend Syed Hassan, who was singing songs with me 10 minutes ago, and now in the studio. What is the difference between being a taxi driver, as I've described this guy, and you? Why can't you commit this kind of offense?
Here in Britain, we have very good rules and legislation and laws, which unfortunately are not even there in some parts of Europe.
And certainly not in
used to be the Iron Curtain
subcontinent.
countries, so we can't really blame India for not having a criminal records bureau, which would definitely prevent.
No, but you can say that the Delhi police should have checked every taxi driver, or bus driver's antecedents. Especially taxis is a very intimate place.
Perhaps the system is not in place in our system in Delhi.
I'll be very happy to say by the end of December, every single taxi driver in Delhi, air cab, no cab, every cab,
I'm sure,
will be checked.
With what has happened now, this will definitely help in implementing certain rules which weren't there already.
Huh.
So it's like 2 years ago when Jyoti Singh Pandey
Yes.
was raped in a public bus, sadly. And of course that set off the alarm signals in various parts of
So
the
people have
society
taken
in India.
heed, and I really want to bring up the topic about transport and how we control transport
Right.
and people in transport. And
Yes.
Delhi police, I applaud. I don't often praise people like that, but I must
Sure,
applaud them. Delhi police went all the way to Mathura, found his cab,
All right. That's
because the
fantastic.
guy had
It's
even
really great.
erased his Uber account.
Yeah,
This is the problem. I love technology, but you cannot replace real human contact with technology.
You can't.
And this company doesn't care. It's worth 40 billion or something.
Wow.
It just doesn't
It's an
mind.
international setup,
A few
and-
rape
yeah,
here, a few rape there. There have been,
True.
and Uber, I'm disgusted. There was a woman journalist whose name I can't see just now. She stood up against them and they threatened her. And they've got $1 million account to challenge people who challenge the company. Can you believe?
Right.
Not lawyers,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
to harass
yeah.
them.
But sadly, given the circumstances, the same thing would happen here, and
Yeah.
it happens in the United States as well.
Okay.
In fact, US is a much bigger country, so things get lost in the system.
Yeah, but US, at least it's easier to find the office. Okay, I welcome into the studio two more people. A lady called Jenny, who's the transport spokesman for UKIP.
Penny.
And Penny, sorry.
Penny,
One
very
spelling-
good.
One first letter mistake.
Welcome.
Apologize. Hello, Penny. And I've got my old friend, who you know, Daniel.
Daniel, of course,
Thompson.
we've met so many
Of
times. here.
UKIP, my good friend. And
Very
Saturday,
good.
Yes.
Saturday night is a party, isn't there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, welcome to the studio. I'm sorry to start on such a sour note, but I cannot allow anything that's happening to a country where I was born to go away unnoticed, having done something of that order.
We have to mention something about
What do you make of all this, Daniel?
Well, Uber, the firm, as we know, obviously it's on the internet and you get there through your iPhone and everything like that. And obviously, people are going to use it as a weapon against women. That's all I can think about. People
Because you know,
think, I can
software
use
companies are there to make money. There's no reality. It's a virtual place.
Well-
So it's very risky and dangerous. I think taxis should be very, I mean, rightly so. In Britain, things are much better. Things do happen. Penny, you were saying, I keep calling you Jenny. Penny, you were saying that a similar thing can happen in our own part of the world.
Well, I have a granddaughter, she's 13,
Uh-huh.
and she has to travel from Felling to Newcastle.
Uh-huh.
We use the taxis a lot.
Mhm.
And we are putting our granddaughter in the hands of the taxi driver.
You are.
Absolutely.
And we have to be really careful. We use the same firm every time. We check as she arrived at her mother's. It's very, very important. They also take the grandson who's 8.
Okay.
Taxi drivers are very important. They have to be registered.
And
Yes.
the
They have to be
reliability,
safe.
yes, safe people.
Because you're putting your children
Inside a
their-
box.
and yes, in their hands.
Absolutely.
In the hands.
Well
So
spoken.
I'm
well spoken.
appalled. I'm appalled.
But can I tell you, in Delhi, when I go, I've got a chap called Ram Singh. He's a Sikh man who lives near my sister's home, and his taxi is there. I can put £1 million in his pocket, and he won't take it. You know, that's how it should be. If he was my taxi driver, and I know this guy as my friend, I would put my sister in that cab, my mother, my daughter, all in one.
Exactly,
No worry.
exactly.
But this business of internet, I mean, I love the internet for information, but I don't use the internet for buying, honestly. If I need to buy an iPhone, I'll go and check up the iPhone and everything, and then I buy on the internet. But even then, I'm not sure how will I return it if it goes bad. So are we going too far into the virtual place just to save a few bob and take all the risk of rape, murder, pillage? What do you think, Daniel?
Well, big business doesn't really have any concerns about personal safety. They're more interested in getting the profit, they're getting the profits, they're getting the questions answered
Yes.
to the board members that they're making more and more money.
So it's about
And
stocks
it
and
puts
shares.
people at risk. Uber obviously is not going to worry about putting people at risk. It's worried about putting money in the pockets of the directors and the shareholders.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
Therefore, here in England, if they have it, if they go on and Uber want to get involved in England, obviously a lot of people in the taxi business are against it, especially the
Because
Uber
it's
taxis.
taking their, because say to get a taxi, how much does it cost?
I think it's about £2 a mile or something.
No, how much does it cost you to run a taxi? A license
Oh,
plate?
it costs a lot.
What? Tell us.
It's a few £1,000s a year for
So
the whole works, because
okay.
you've got to have it inspected every year, sometimes twice, and it's about £300 for each inspection. Of course, on top of that, you've got your expenses of tax and all the rest.
Of course, yeah.
It's quite expensive.
So, to be a taxi driver, physically you cannot have diabetes. or if you have type 2 diabetes, you cannot have type 1. I can have diabetes type 1 and drive my car, my personal car. But when your public safety is being put in your hands,
It's an insurance requirement.
it's an insurance
That's
requirement.
correct,
Yes, your license.
And you have to have a medical inspection, which
Yourself.
7 years ago used to cost £100. It's probably more than that now.
Yeah.
And the doctor issues a full report on your health conditions
So-
and certifies that you're able to drive a taxi and look after the passengers as well.
So your physical and mental health is looked into.
Absolutely.
You cannot just be anyone and ill and kind of just about manage.
No, and in Britain we have the CRB, where every driver's record is fully checked. But that's what I discovered, that people who are coming from the continent, they don't have a CRB
So-
over there. So there could
Well,
be
you got the right man.
murderers and rapists
he
from,
hates the
from,
EU.
from,
So
from Latvia, for example.
Get in, Daniel,
You
get
know,
in.
but this has happened. I mean, it's been in the press. 2 or 3 Latvians have been caught out because they've committed offences here, criminal offences, and they were already known to be criminal people in their own country. So it was discovered a bit too
sorry,
late.
Daniel,
The
please.
good thing is about London, the black cabs in London have got to go through a vigorous process called the knowledge, where they have to learn about every street and you can cry
Absolutely,
around London
yes.
City.
They've got to do a PhD on the road system.
Obviously,
No,
the
but they
black
have to
cabs-
know the roads, otherwise they'll take you round and round and you have
Well,
to pay for it.
they've got to know the best, quickest route to offer the best service to the passengers. Now, obviously, the black cabs can be expensive, and we know mini cabs are a lot
But
cheaper.
they're safe. I'd rather
But
put
you
my-
are safe in a
Yes.
Hackney carriage. You're
Yes.
safe in a London taxi cab.
Yes.
Other people, other mini cab firms, especially in London, when I used to live in London, obviously there's good mini cab firms and there's bad. There are some very bad ones I experienced when I was living in London, and some good ones. But one thing for certain, if I valued my safety, if I valued my quality of journey, I would always get a black cab.
It doesn't matter if it costs a few pounds more.
Yes.
I'll tell you the exact opposite. I was in Soho and I flagged down what looked like a taxi. It didn't have plates. And I said in Urdu, "Aap taxi hain? Are you a taxi?" He said, "Yes." He was an Afghani fellow running a taxi service without paying anything. And his rates was half. But that is the Uber story, isn't it?
Well,
I don't know who's taking me, whether the car is MOT'd or not, whether the brakes will work or not, whether he'll kill me or not.
Uber's trying to steal money off hard-working taxi drivers.
Yes, yes. And the reason for, well, it's like selling a boot hooch on the side, isn't it? Without a pub license. It's exactly the same thing, wouldn't you say?
Yes, and now talking about the London scenario, in Piccadilly in London, I have come across people who don't have any license whatsoever, and they're touting around for passengers because they know about 2 to 3 in the morning people are coming out nightclubs and there's a huge shortage of taxis. So they will offer and they pick up a few pounds, taking somewhere out in London for 20, 30, 40 pounds.
20 million people live in London,
Yes.
and obviously there's a shortage of...
True.
Because a
public
taxi
transport sometimes.
Yeah.
driver is in a very intimate place.
He's like a guardian.
with a man, yes.
He's a guardian of his
Yes,
life.
like a
He's
teacher to the
guardian of
student,
journey.
like a doctor to the patient,
True.
like a fireman to the person he's evacuating, like a AA man. These men particularly have to be very nice, gentle people who treat the woman with respect and kindness and courtesy. Doesn't matter if they're drunk or not, it just doesn't matter. Their job is to take them A to B, and the reason that woman has got in your cab is not because she fancies you, is because she needs to be taken somewhere, and the government has rubber stamped
Absolutely,
him.
yes.
Now, if you don't rubber stamp, I mean, despite all that, we still have grooming and all that in Newcastle, never mind other places like that. Despite all that, which brings me to our dear friend Penny, who's chomping at the bits, I hope. Penny, say something. Because, despite all this, males still dominate females all over the world, less so here. So tell me a bit about suffragettes and things like that, because I take great pride in women being called human beings. Most people don't, go on.
Women didn't have the vote. They couldn't vote. They couldn't take part in elections. They were second-rate people.
Yes.
So Mrs. Pankhurst and her family got together, started a suffragette movement.
Right.
And it was...
How long was it? 95 years ago?
About 95. It was before the First World War. And the government would take no notice whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
Some silly woman,
They got tougher and tougher and tougher, and they ended up by throwing bricks through windows, tying themselves to railings.
And someone died, didn't she, running with a horse?
Emily Davison. She was killed under a horse.
I don't think she wanted to die. She just wanted to give a petition.
Yes, she was. She was from Morpeth.
Really?
She was from Morpeth. But
I'm so proud to belong to the Northeast,
exactly,
honestly.
Yeah.
Wow.
The point was, the worst thing about it was, they were put into jail and it was cat and mouse. They'd go home and then they'd come back and say, you're going back to jail. They wouldn't eat. They starved themselves and they were force fed, which meant there was a tube put down the nose so that they could, to make them eat.
So that they have to eat, yeah.
And quite a number of them came back out of hospital and they died later because of the effects of being in jail.
So they were killed, really?
Yes,
Right.
they were marvellous women.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Pankhurst came from
course.
Lancashire, she was from Manchester.
Uh-huh.
But the reason why they were given the vote, eventually, because of the First World War, the men had all gone out to fight.
And they needed the women
and
to
they needed
make the
women-
bullets
they
and,
made the bullets,
and wear
they
the trousers in the factories.
Yeah, and on farms,
Ha,
bus
ha.
conductors. 1919,
Ah.
they were given the vote.
Well, it's-
but not all of them.
Ah.
You had, I think you had to be over 25 before you got the vote.
And
But
men,
at least it was
what
a
age?
start.
What age were men voting?
I'm not
18,
sure.
maybe 18 or something.
I don't know. I think it was 21. It may have been 21.
Oh, so
I
women
can't
had to be
remember.
extra smart to be able to vote.
Yes, yes.
You know, this
but
business...
it was a wonderful thing. It was
No,
a
but
wonderful thing they did.
we talk about women's rights in Britain, where it's 100 million times better than most of the world.
Yes.
I'm not talking even about anywhere too far from here. It's different in Spain, it's different. Women are respected in Britain more than I think anywhere else that I've seen. Bad things happen, but largely they don't. Largely women are respected. And I simply can't understand that if women are half the workforce, love force, human force, why does one half need
Well,
to
it's,
put the other half down?
But I'll tell you, it's very amazing that, you know, the perspectives of equality of women and the protection of women are different. I mean, I'm talking about 40 years ago in London, I was working with an accountant who came from South Africa. And he told me, he said, in South Africa, if there's a bus and there are 10 women there, they have to be given the seat to sit down, essentially, by any man. And he was very sad to find in London, on the terms of equality, if a man sitting there, he won't get up and offer the seat to a
Well,
woman.
culturally in Calcutta, for all the rush, Calcutta is one of the dirtiest, busiest cities.
Right, it's a busy.
But it is one of the most cultured cities, and they respect women,
Right.
and they'll get up for a woman. Not in Bombay, and certainly not in Delhi. Delhi is a funny political animal, you know.
Right.
Men jostling with women, it's all about, they're all Mahajars actually.
Right.
Delhi is a state created by people who left Pakistan, who left Bihar.
came from the other side of the border.
Not just that, from Kerala, from Bangalore.
Okay.
So it's like London, where money matters,
Yes,
and only
yes.
money matters.
And of course,
Wouldn't you say, Daniel, where money becomes, the stock exchange becomes the controller of people's culture, the culture just devalues.
True.
And I think Delhi is I've studied in Delhi for 3 years.
it's a capital as well, so.
No, but the capital should be an example and a beacon.
True.
But Delhi is not. Delhi is, I'm ashamed to say, not a place where I would ask my sister to go in the bazaar and shop by herself, even today, now. I've lived in Delhi for 3 years. So it's changing though.
Yeah, when I was in Delhi, I got the train from Delhi to Lucknow, and then the train from Lucknow to Varanasi. And
Hey,
there
you're
were
very well
very good.
travelled, man.
Of course.
Hey,
Thank you.
he's a joker in the
Yeah.
pack, man.
there were lady-only carriages. Now the problem with lady-only carriages, some ladies would think it would be unequal to have lady-only carriages.
Yes, yes.
So that you're trying to fight on two fronts. You've got the
Yes.
independent lady who says, "I want to jostle and be independent."
And
be
sit where
equal to men."
people sit, not men.
And sit where the men are. But the problem is there's some nasty people out there. Now, give a lady a choice. Some of the ladies want to be independent and they're quite confident and self-confident in India. They can sit in the mixed carriages, but those who are a little bit self-confident, maybe shy or maybe a bit older, can sit in the lady-only carriages. Now, I think that's a good thing. I think that gives ladies and women independence, that they've got that choice, and it really makes the men think that they have to respect the ladies.
Yes, it's a symbol.
Yeah.
Like in London, there's a hospital of the women, for the women, by the women. Now, I don't really advocate such things, but if a woman chooses to, I find it very strange that if a woman walks into the practice, there's 3 male doctors ready to do a smear. Go on, Penny.
Say something. I went to an all-girls school.
We went to an all-boys school.
And it was
Pity.
the best thing that happened to me.
No,
I was really
no,
glad
no.
to go to an all-girls school
No,
because
no.
we weren't affected by the boys.
That's
the
right.
teaching
No,
was better.
Yeah, yeah.
We were concentrating on what we
Till
were
what
doing.
age? Till what age should we have all girls school or all boys school? Just single gender
well,
school.
I went to mixed school till I was 11, and I was happy in the mixed school till I was 11. But at the senior
So
school,
it takes some time to get used to the other gender.
Yes.
They look different, they talk different, they
I know,
walk
but we had
different.
a better education, and we were not distracted. And now I was
Okay.
a teacher, and I
Ah,
taught,
right.
and I taught home economics
Wow.
with girls. They all worked well. They tried hard.
Put one boy in and the whole mix
And
changes.
then another time I had to do some supply teaching with the boys, and the girls were different because the boys were
Okay.
there, the boys were making comments.
Okay.
The
All the
girls-
time,
The
yes,
girls
yeah.
get a better education in a single sex.
Without being distracted by the opposite gender.
Yes, I mean you do get schools. We had a boys' school next door, so we had social functions.
Right.
But the general teaching was girls only, and I think I was so lucky to go
I
to that
actually
school.
agree with you. I go to schools to do music, Indian classical music. And up till the age of 10, 12, they're innocent. The girls are not wearing fishnet tights and putting lipstick on, and the boys don't have brill cream in their hair. They're just people. And the girls are wearing trousers and the boys are wearing trousers in some of these schools. And they just sit on the floor. I let them know that you'll be sitting on the floor, please wear trousers.
Right.
You know, you can't have a girl wearing a
Yeah,
skirt
yeah,
and sitting
yeah,
cross-legged on the floor. And those schools are fine. But as soon as you reach slightly 12, 13, when the monkey gland kicks in, they'll be giggling, they won't participate, and the teacher's spending all the time keeping the boys away from the girls.
Right.
It's a very powerful force, you know.
Well, it is. It is.
But
Essentially,
but
at
don't
that
you pity the...
At that particular time in life, you know, both boys and girls, they're trying to discover something new. And this thing... like
I haven't
said,
found it yet, but carry on.
Are you too young? So,
Okay. No, but I truly believe, you know, in India, the ancient system was you go to a forest to study with your guru. A bit like the boarding school mentality here. There's pluses and minuses. Because up to a certain age, if you're distracted by the girls or the boys, and then your family is having its own squabbles, so there is some value. I was a day boarder, so at least all day from morning till night,
All
I was
right.
away from the hustle and bustle and the mortgage worry of my parents,
Right.
and I just enjoyed. I was in an all-boys Catholic school, but I've still
True,
come out
true.
pretty okay. Have you recovered?
yes, sir.
You went to a Catholic school
Well, yes,
too?
I did too.
So you
exactly
recovered?
the same. I mean,
Are you
just
recovered?
on the other side of the line. But yes,
So,
I had
yeah.
I had a good time. At the particular time I was in school, there were complaints, and we used to get 6 of the best if something went wrong.
6 of the best.
It's like
So
Tom Brown's
what is the UKIP's line on faith schools?
Well, what we've got to think, in India, obviously, there's various types of schools, and a lot of them are faith-orientated. Now,
The
all mixed
English
schools.
medium ones are.
There are mixed schools in India, and there's
Ah.
obviously private schools tend to be sort of single-sex.
Private schools tend to be English medium as well.
Yeah, okay. So we're a bit of a catch-22 here. Do we protect the kids, or do we let them learn to protect themselves? And in regard to girls at school and even girls at university, you know, there are quite a lot of innocent people who maybe live in the countryside and come to Newcastle University, and there's this massive city, and there's some nasty people out there. And we've got a lot of CCTV, and you can keep an eye on it, but it doesn't stop a rapist or an attacker putting a mask
But
on.
it's not just rape, it's like emotional harassment. It's like, harassment on the internet. Because I know a girl who is my friend's friend. She lives in Morpeth-ish, somewhere near there. She went to Oxford to study. She stayed in a residence. I'm talking about Britain now, about 12 years ago.
Yeah.
She couldn't cope with the idea that boys and girls were living next door to each other, sleeping around and all. She gave up. So there are a lot of innocent people, and I'm not saying everyone has to be innocent, but they don't get a chance,
What we
and she
don't
gave up
want
everything.
Is somebody to have a bad experience to learn from. We want people just to learn.
This girl was smart enough not to wait for a bad experience because she would have had one.
That's good. That's
So,
good.
in a sense, and I went to Hyderabad about 8 or 9 years ago, and I was shocked that in India, Hyderabad, a modern city albeit, with broadband and everything, boys and girls hostel, I was shocked. I said, what? We never got the chance. You know what I mean?
Well, things have changed.
Yes.
But
quite a lot.
you hope that in India, especially, that we want the male population to be more understanding of the female perspective in the
That
society.
is the nub of the problem.
Yeah.
By hanging or pillaring this one guy who's committed a rape, who comes from the village and is a serial rapist, or that girl who took the risk, that isn't the issue. The issue is, doesn't matter what situation you are in, you still treat the other person with dignity and love and respect.
Do we hang rapists?
what's the advantage of that? It's like Saudi Arabia, they chop off people's hands. There's still thieves and drunkards in Saudi Arabia. It's banned. It's a Muslim country. People are drinking by the gallon in Saudi Arabia.
What do we do then?
But
We'll
that's
jail them
but
and
that's
let
the
them out,
end.
really.
You're
Do it again.
treating the symptom, not the disease. The disease
Yes.
has to, isn't it? Would you say, Penny? What do you think? You're a teacher. I didn't realize. Now that you're a teacher, you should be much more involved. Come on. The word doctor and the word teacher are the same word. Did you know that? The word doctor actually means teacher.
Well, it's a long time since I was teaching.
But you're still a teacher. Once a teacher, always a teacher.
Well,
What's your view?
a view of what?
Of whether the punishment should cure us or whether society should innately change.
Well, I do think people should be punished. I mean, as a child, my mother used to slap me on the legs, and I don't think it did me any harm at all.
But now you can't.
I know you can't.
At all.
I mean, I've been in classrooms where the children are just going mad. The poor teacher can't control it. I got out of teaching
For that reason.
because I thought to myself, I'm going to get myself a business and I'm going to pay for my children to go to school privately, which is exactly what I did.
What did you do business-wise?
I had a hotel. I've still got
Wow.
Very
You
good.
still have a hotel?
it. Yeah.
I must come and see you because I like people who change their career. From a teacher to a hotel is a massive change.
Right.
It was the best thing we ever did.
Good.
I feel very sorry for teachers today. You've got to have some form of discipline. The children have got to know where the boundaries are. You can only go so far. I mean, my granddaughter's unfortunately now having to go to state school and she's having a very difficult time. I feel very sorry.
So what's missing from private school to state school? What's the change for her from a private school, which I guess she was
Well,
in?
she felt a lot, I think she's basically felt a lot safer, but of course it was an all-girls school.
So that is the safety factor.
It was a safety factor, she felt secure, she felt happy. I really don't want to say anything about it because there's a problem there and I'm not going to talk about it.
No, that's
on
fine.
air.
But I see a lot of Muslims in Newcastle having their children in Catholic schools because of the safety factor and because of the lack of sexual talk all the time and being on the messenger all the time.
You need the basic discipline. Children have to do as they're told. And
Don't-
a lot of them just simply do not. They turn around and say, no, I am not doing it.
I'm not going to do it. They don't do it at home. And the parents also don't collude with the teacher. They collude with the kid.
Absolutely.
So you'll get the kid you want.
What I imagine though, Doc, is how many of these attackers and rapists, if they'd had a few good hidings at school, there'd be less of them on the streets.
So
in my opinion.
what we are feeling, and I'll talk about India, in India the men are brought up to believe that they should control the women by their mothers, never mind their fathers. The mothers will send the child to a private school and the daughter just, I'm not talking about everyone, but it is common and I've seen it in Newcastle upon Tyne as well. I've got a female teacher as a family friend and she would say, you're sending your two sons to me to coach them to get into Royal Grammar, but what about your daughter? We can't afford. She said, I'll teach them free. It's so sad that even in this country, and I'm not talking about Asians, I'm talking about English people as well, there is still that feeling in Britain, but I'm talking about very...
Not with the English people.
I'm talking about an English person.
I don't think the English do.
No, I'm talking about a specific case where...
I think if it's an English family, they've got a boy and a girl, and they both go to private school.
One would hope so.
Oh, I think so. I mean, I've not seen any.
I've seen. Anyway, but it's not as common
to
here.
the boys.
But it's not as common here. But boys are still given guns to play with, and girls are given dolls. Still.
Well, it's a natural thing.
What?
When you're a child, I didn't want to play with guns. I wanted to play with dolls. It's an innate thing.
And if I played with dolls, would it bother you?
No, not at all.
And if my sister played with guns, would it bother you?
Not really. She might have been playing cowboys and Indians. We used to play cowboys
cowgirls.
and Indians.
No. What I'm saying is, you still feel that it's natural for boys to pick up guns.
Well, it's an innate defensive mechanism.
And
It's
girls,
not about genes.
girls don't need defense in their genes.
Well, they're not the same. The women are more protective.
The men are supposed to be the hunter-gatherers,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Yeah, but I hope that's been given up. Otherwise, the hunter-gatherer, this guy who raped a woman, was a hunter-gatherer and he gathered a woman. That's what they did in caves.
But we're
Exactly.
not in Stone Age anymore.
We
thank
are, but
God.
some of us are. But that's exactly what I'm
So
saying.
some of the countries adjacent to India
Huh.
are still in the Stone Age
Well,
in regard to relations with
Yes,
women's rights.
essentially. But I think broadly, not talking about one country or the other, I think during the school days, boys growing up into men have to be groomed and taught to respect women.
Absolutely.
you can't
Because
use,
we all
you can't
come
use the
from
word
women.
groomed anymore. It has a very...
That's not a politically correct word.
You know, bride groom. You can't
come
use
from-
that word groom, man.
we
Only
come-
only Jimmy
we come-
Savile can use it.
We
you
come
know.
from mothers, so essentially we have sisters and
Okay,
of course.
let me tell you my piece as a doctor, and I truly believe what I'm saying, and I've talked to the best psychiatrists in the country, but those idiots won't understand me. Boys are born from women. I haven't yet met a boy born from a bloke. Inside the woman's womb is a lot of estrogen, and we have to fight that to come out still remaining a male, otherwise we'll develop breasts and so on. So we are in a female atmosphere. Though we love our mothers, we have to survive our mother and not come out as girls. Okay? And I think that lasts. That's my sociological, anthropological understanding. But that is bad enough. But if I, as a bloke, am sent to a private school, I'm talking about India, and my sister's not, which is not true. We were all sent to the same schools and everything. I've seen not the same. Then culturally, one is nature, one is nurture. Nature, if what Penny is saying, if in nature men are aggressive, let's assume that. Then nurturing should be to bring us to human zero level. So men are not just alpha males,
Absolutely.
and women are just submissive,
Yes.
dumb blondes on high heels,
Right.
girls singing "Happy Birthday" to President Kennedy.
So,
They are sex objects. They are being made to be sex objects.
is the mother more to blame than the father? Then?
Yeah, but
Or
even an
was it the education
even an
system?
8 point that
Uh-huh.
you, as a girl,
Uh-huh.
I didn't want to do boys' things. We played out
You
with boys
did not
and girls.
have the opportunity, madam.
Of course I had the opportunity. My parents were very free thinking and I could do what I liked. We used to play out
I'm not. Okay.
Right.
in the streets. This was before we had all the cars.
Okay.
We used to play with scraps. Now people don't have probably no idea what scraps are.
Right.
The bits of paper.
Yeah.
And we used to play. The
Ma-
girls
make
thing-
things out of things,
We,
yeah.
we used to play
Okay.
with the boys, so we used to play hide and seek, all sorts of
Yeah.
points
So
with the boys.
Penny, you come from a very high-thinking family.
Yes.
And I'm talking about Britain. Forget India and Pakistan and Bangladesh and Saudi Arabia, certainly. Let's just talk about even in England. I'll give you an example of, I'll use the word grooming. How parents groom their children into a culture. I went to a conference, and by now you realize I speak as I see, and I don't care what people think. At the conference were doctors, and we were talking about how to best employ staff, this and that and the other. And I got up and just said, can anyone whose parents were doctors not put their hands up? Anyone whose parents were not doctors put their hands up. 10% of that crowd of doctors were born of parents who weren't doctors. Now, wouldn't you call that sort of grooming? Is it genetic to become a doctor or nurture? So,
Well, it's like solicitors. You get a family of solicitors, and quite a lot of the sons will go to be solicitors.
so isn't that grooming?
exactly.
Isn't that modeling?
Well, it's just you just see what your parents are doing. You're living in this atmosphere
Yes.
of the law. So, and often your parents will support
Like actors,
you.
actors' children become actors.
Yes, and
Yeah,
the
but
parents
that's-
know
but-
the ropes.
but-
They know the way forward,
Yeah.
Right.
which perhaps other families don't know.
No, but that is the only way they know. My father is a lawyer, my mother is a social worker, I'm a doctor. Now that is what I respect in my parents. They never told me what to do. And I'm coming from India, from Patna, from a small village. My sister is a teacher. My two brothers are entrepreneurs. Completely different from my parents. So my parents, whatever they were, and I hope more parents are like that, they not only allow, they encourage their children to be different. Instead of twins wearing the same clothes and that kind of subtle grooming. By grooming, I mean modeling. Let's use the
Yes.
word modeling.
Exactly, yes. I mean, that's what it is. And of course, Daniel mentioned a very important point which slips the mind a couple of minutes ago.
It's okay, you're
You know,
68 years old.
yeah, well,
It's called Alzheimer's.
I think boys have to be taught across the board to respect ladies when they're growing up, because that's the time when
Attitudes are formed.
Yeah, attitudes formed, and of course, what you said, you know, the whole thing kicks in when you're into your teenage years. That's the time when they should be taught that, look, this is the rule, and you respect women because of 1, 2, 3, and whatever factors.
See,
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Penny, would you think laws are just one end of it, like punishing people and rewarding people? But the psyche has to change, isn't it? You're a teacher, that's why I ask you such detailed questions. The human psyche, that belief that women are no less than men,
Right.
that idea has to kick in, don't you?
Well, there's more women now going to university than men in England.
True.
Very good point, because
Yes.
in Newcastle Medical School they did positive discrimination for women, which I taught in this
Well,
university.
the girls actually do better for A-levels, I think, than boys do.
Yes, given the chance.
Yeah.
And they're doing very well in the degrees,
They are less-
and they're breaking what they call the glass ceiling.
Yeah.
They're moving up.
Wonderful,
Yes,
wonderful.
yes.
And I really applaud that. In Newcastle Medical School, there was positive discrimination until 75% of the students became girls. Now, as you know, girls are sensible. They'll do part-time work. They'll get pregnant. They get married, and so on. So the career isn't all in their life. It's part of their life and a very important part. But for blokes, that's all at the cost of family, this and that. And now they've taken it off, and now we've got 50-50-ish. without any discrimination. So the girls have become equal in the medical world. And I think sometimes you have to do some positive discrimination to help change the stats. And then
Yes, but you shouldn't do it when you go into for election for MPs, where they've got these women-only elections. I don't think that's.
so if you're black and a woman, you get into Newcastle.
It looks that way till the next election.
I know where you're pointing. Okay, I met the lady concerned, but we shan't mention too much, otherwise I'll be sued.
I think some form of discrimination is always there in society, and you can't remove it.
No. You can remove it because it starts with us. See, the government can make the laws, the police can enforce it, but we have to change. You and I, individually.
We have to project ideas that would assist.
I'll put
Doc,
another...
to go back to the taxi issue,
Yes.
there are a lot of lady taxi drivers.
Yes.
Especially in London, a lot of the ladies drive black cabs.
that is the ultimate proof that Britain's taxi are okay.
I've met quite a few, you know,
Yes.
who lived in
I'm
London.
glad you mentioned that point.
They are absolute characters, lady taxi drivers.
And lady bus drivers as well, Daniel.
But bus...
they're real big characters, lady bus drivers, you know.
16 gear change and so on. I wanted to mention the change in India with regard to this issue. The Prime Minister of the country talked about two things nobody would talk about. Toilets. Women don't have toilets in schools. Where are they supposed to go?
Really?
In villages, women have to go to the... Yes, I mean, not every school. I'm talking about even one school doesn't have a toilet for girls. I applaud that issue. So he brought that. And more importantly, he says it's very easy for us to say to the daughter, here's a mobile phone, phone me in 10 minutes. Where were you? How are you? Are you all right? Keep phoning me. I mean, probably you do a little bit having two daughters.
Absolutely.
But if you had a son, says the Prime Minister of India in his prime ministerial speech on Republic Day, do you ask your son, where the hell were you for the last 4 hours? Why did you come back at 2? Were you drinking? Were you troubling girls? Because he says for every girl raped, there's a man raping. And
Absolutely.
that man has a mother and a sister and a father, and why don't they ask questions? So what I'm talking about is a more fundamental shift in respect for women,
Yes.
not just by rules.
So, is it an education that should be home-based, or should it be based in the educational system?
Both. They should reinforce each other.
And then,
If at home I'm taught to slap my sister and it's okay, when she slaps me, oh you can't, you're a girl, if that happens, in school there's equality, it doesn't work. And vice versa. If in school the girls are made to sit behind me, all the boys sitting in the front 3 rows and the girls behind them, you're segregating. And you're teaching and continuing misogyny.
The basic education starts from home. Mother, father, training their children by their own attitudes and reflecting on it. It's like if you use a lot of abusive words at home, it's going to trickle out.
Basic
And then, of course,
education.
I was one of three daughters and a boy. There were 4 of us.
Right.
But my parents were absolutely equal with all of us.
No, I mean,
there was no
in the
difference.
time you were born, Penny,
And this was-
things weren't as equal as they are now.
I was born in 1944.
Yes, we are 48, we are 4 years younger.
Yeah,
right.
We
so-
feel young now, suddenly.
yes.
Both of us are born in 46.
46.
Only 2 years old. We are 2 years younger, and we look at 2, don't
Really
we?
younger, yeah.
We are looking like Statler and Waldorf in the Muppet Show. He is a band man.
what about respect then?
What
Obviously,
is respect? What is this? The word
If you
respect.
respect
What do you mean by the word respect?
your sisters, and you respect your auntie, and you respect your granny, and you respect your mum,
Yes.
is it going to make you less of a person who's going to show disrespect to women, or maybe
I think so.
end up attacking them?
I think so.
So, are some of these people maybe do they have if they came from a broken home, have they had a bad experience within the family to become sexual predators? Or
Okay,
rapists
I've
or
had this,
attackers?
in the seat where you sit was another fellow Jewish guy, different from you, Dr. Joel Yeoli.
Yeah.
You might know him. He is a clinical psychologist, and I brought this question up. Yes, the toilets if you go to the desk and ask. Okay. I asked the same question, and he says that it's about bonding. If your mother breastfed you and held you too tight, you'll be scared of doing new things. If your mother breastfed you and didn't hold you enough, you'll feel abandoned. So all that matters, you know. All that said, you're still not allowed to rape if you didn't get breastfed or not. So it goes deeper than that, you know. If you were in your mother's womb and in the second half of the pregnancy, she was very stressed, you're more likely to get stressed. And often men use sex as a way of relaxing, as like a pressure cooker letting off.
Yeah,
Women,
it's consensual sex.
I'm talking about the man's part, and the women need to be wooed and so on. That is organic, because women are not predators. At least they weren't for some time ago.
Right. Yeah. Well, of course, I mean, these values start from home. Mother, father teaching their children how to behave and what to do. So
why
it
do
stems
we
from
in
there.
India, Pakistan, Bangladesh have swear words which have to do with sexuality with your mother and sister and daughter?
Well, that's probably
That's a very common abuse.
Yeah, yeah.
Why?
I think it is historic. It probably
India.
dates back to 1,000 years or more.
The whole concept in India, it's a bit like the concept we had in the 1960s. Like the men, it's a bit mucky. Sex and have a laugh about it. A bit.
Oh,
they're embarrassed.
That's right.
And I don't think it's going to be a long time before India, it's not a third world country anymore, before it gets its act together within the next 10, 15 years. And I think the women will have just as equal respect that they have here. And maybe
But
it's
India is a
more.
funny situation, at least in the religion that started in India, we have got goddesses with arms sticking out. My cousin Neelam Kumar, who has written 5-6 books, and until recently was the head of Steel Authority of India Communications. She was the president of that. I mean, for a girl, she would be now 62. For her, and she phoned and said, on the road we respect our women. We're not talking about rapes. We kowtow out to them, we do namaste, and at home we go and beat them up and rape them. So there's two Indias, there's too much hypocrisy in India and my neighbor countries.
What do you call it, false standards then?
Completely. The ministers go in prisons. My mother used to look after an aftercare home where these so-called runaway girls, you're a pretty little girl at 14, the policeman grooms you, gives you laddus and this and that, a telephone, and says, I'll marry you, takes you away, has sex with you for a month, and then dumps you. And what can you become but a prostitute? So those kind of girls my mother used to look after, and I used to go by rickshaw and later by car. For 2 years she served them. Every Sunday she used to go and talk to them, to counsel them, to say, why don't you learn sewing, knitting, this, that, so you can have a life. So I've seen the other side of it,
I was very suspicious of the police actions in India.
The police rape the women.
Yeah, obviously we can be suspicious about the police actions anyway, because they seem to do irregular things. But I remember I was on a train in India, and I didn't realise that you can open the door from the inside of the carriage, not the outside of the carriage. So I went and I took my bag in, I put it under the carriage, and I just stood having a cigarette at the train door.
With the train door open.
But there was somebody in the train who opened the door from the inside and passed my bag out. So anyway, it wasn't a great disaster,
But you lost your bag.
I lost my bag and a couple of bottles of beer which I had planned to be drinking to get to sleep on the journey overnight. Anyway, so I ended up going to the police station in Delhi Station, and the police are suddenly giving somebody a kicking, and he's all bloody nosed, and there just seemed to be this normal process to give somebody a beating before they decide to lock him up for whatever he's done.
Yeah.
And they just seemed to be happy that they could just do what the hell they liked, and I think that's the same, the police attitude with the rape in India, especially the one a couple of years ago. The police thought, well, this is a bit uncomfortable, let's just sweep it under the carpet, and thank God the women's activists in India
Yes, they
stood
really
and
took
stopped
it up, really. I mean, just now there's lots of activism going on, perhaps not necessarily because the government is doing the best, and you can't blame the government. It's something that's been happening for a long time. So people get too tied up into the politics of it. And yesterday I saw a panel with 6 women there, and they were fighting tooth and nail. Instead of saying women are being raped, let's forget the politics of it. No party agrees with rape.
I think the evolution is helping countries like India or next door in develop a system which will happily fall into line with some kind of sensibility in the human attitudes. But you've got a newspaper over there, or which I saw the heading, and I heard something about it on the BBC radio this morning. It's about the CIA and whatever. And there's a lot happens in many Western countries, which is all covered up.
Okay, there's a nice time for a break.
Daniel was talking about, the guys being beaten. Gentlemen, I'll take leave of you because
I'll put on the break and you can take leave. Thank you very much. Syed bhai, see you later.
Pleased to be with you. And Penny, thank you very much. Nice meeting you. And take care and enjoy the rest of the program. Thank you.
The cages and
आप सुन रहे हैं कैलाश सत्यार्थी and Malala Yousafzai को बात करते हुए yesterday. He says 2 of us, father and daughter. He's calling her daughter. Now, if India and Pakistan are the same people, see, Pakistan cannot exist without being anti-Indian. It's like a divorced wife. I have a divorced wife, Anthea. I gave her the money. I don't know where she lives. She's happy. I'm happy.
It's like the Labour Party can't exist without being
hateful of
anti-UK.
All the British and the French.
bring that up, yeah.
You
Fine.
know. What we're going to
But
do
you can't
is,
be defined by who you are not. You should have your own identity.
we'll have a little mention on the cycling and about the judiciary.
Yeah, you bring what you like.
Yeah, so we'll do that. I think you should try and say on the radio that we don't want these type of cabs in Newcastle because there's too many vulnerable students, there's too many vulnerable people, and they're all getting drunk every weekend, and that there's already been sort of capers going on. I think we need more street wardens to look. We need more lady street wardens to look after the interests of girls when they're out on the night out. So we need more sort of lady bouncers.
I must say, whatever she looks like and behaves like, what's her name, Veera Baird, has
Baird.
done a wonderful thing with vulnerability.
Yeah, I know that.
And I think we could praise her. She has done something. I know she's Labour though.
She's a Labour MP, ex-Labour MP.
Ex-Labour MP, Silk, but this aspect, because I've used her material to teach. I go to McDonald's and these girls are earning £1,000 a month, spending 500 on alcohol. And they're pretty young girls getting drunk. I'm not saying they're waiting for rape, but they're putting...
It's the television. It's the television. When I was young, we didn't drink at all. We hardly ever drank because it just wasn't in the
I'm a
culture.
Hindu, I'm not, it doesn't matter whether I drink or not. If I'm at a party, you'll see me that night. I'll have a glass of wine and I'll ask him.
But I was
And I'm not even a girl, a pretty girl. I'm not even pretty.
I was a Methodist, right? Methodists didn't believe in drink. We used to have parties, we used to go, had a wonderful childhood.
No, but what do you do with people who do drink?
Well, I think it's the television, there's far too much.
It's that Geordie show, isn't it?
TV,
Yeah.
all the soaps, they're never out of a glass in the hand.
Because they're trying to advertise.
You know, it's
people to drink.
yeah, it's the big companies that are pushing drink.
This is Malala, why are we fighting?
Because in this world, if we
You can hear, yeah?
that we are modern and we have achieved so much development, then
This is
why
that girl.
it that there are so many countries where children are not asking for any iPad
You mean
or
the one, the
computer or
16-year-old?
anything else.
Yeah.
They're asking for is just a book and just a pen. So why can't we do that? Why can't we just give a book and a pen? Why can't we just give a school?
I'm speaking off air. This girl is speaking yesterday at Oslo at a press conference. 16-year-old girl, you know. She's got the world on her
She's
feet.
amazing, she's
Amazing.
amazing.
With great people, with great people like Malala Satyarthi, who is not much older. So, and I'm really honored.
So, what do you think of that? Here's a girl about 16, 17, studying in Birmingham, who was shot at just for wanting women's and children's rights to education.
Well,
So there's one side. The other side is Kailash Satyarthi. He's about my age, a bit younger. I met him. He's against child slavery in the sense of sex slaves in circuses. Girls come from Nepal into India, allegedly to be in the circus, but they're used as prostitutes as well. He will not go to a hotel, and if a waiter under the age of 16 offers him water, he will not take it. He's a highly principled guy. I've met him. I've been with him for 5 days watching his camps, because I did stress relief for the children. But come on, I've talked too
in
much.
regard to the young lady, she's won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yes.
She should be very, very proud of herself.
Malala.
I think Malala, somebody up above, somebody higher above has made her come into existence.
Yes.
I think she's very young. I think she's going to have a great influence on humanity.
So do
throughout her
you
lives.
think humanity throws up such people like Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, Malcolm X, Malala, these real people who have the courage to die rather than change their beliefs?
I honestly think this young lass is being put on earth for a reason. I
Wow.
think the reason is
That's how
gonna
much
be
respect you feel for
to
her.
do good
Wow.
things
Wow.
for all humanity, all religions. I think we have to be proud of her on a global way, not just one country.
Yes.
Because I think she's going to make a difference like other people have made a
And
difference.
she's only
in
young.
this
I mean, she's got lots to live, and I'm sure she's going to be a real rule breaker and a game changer.
I think
Penny, what do you think?
she's
As a
character
teacher,
who's going to win
in
for a
that
lot
part
people.
of the world, her father has encouraged her to study, even at the cost of being shot and killed. I really respect people like
Well,
that.
it's very brave.
It's extremely
it's
brave.
extremely brave, but you do get brave people. You do get people who stand up.
Yes.
Stand up, and I watched a program about helping RAF people escaping the war.
Uh-huh.
And these people in France could have been shot for what they were doing,
Yes.
trying to rescue people.
So-
There are people, fortunately,
Yes.
who are brave enough and to stand up and be counted.
There are people who are called rebels or freedom fighters or terrorists, whatever you call them, but they are prepared to die. I'm not talking about crazy cookies who put a bomb on their belly and go and just kill themselves. and they are called martyrs. They are not martyrs, they are mad. But I'm talking about people who are prepared to, in the pursuit of knowledge, work, just the normal household things that you and I enjoy in this country. Why should girls study on the border of Waziristan? Why should they not? Why should they be killed because they're studying?
It's obvious because the elders, the men, the elders, Pakistan, Afghanistan, they feel scared. Scared of progress, maybe?
But the tragedy isn't that most people feel. I mean, Syed is from Pakistan. I've got lots of Pakistani friends. The children are all studying. They're just normal kids. Sometimes people don't have the courage to stand up, to be counted, and the bad ones get noticed and the good ones keep quiet.
I was doing a little bit of research in Pakistan, and in the 1960s it appeared to be a lot more of a liberal place.
Yeah.
Was it like that, Doc?
They're definitely.
You know, with a lot of Western clothing, and you know,
Well,
the religion was there, but it
at a certain stage,
in your face.
somebody showed a picture of Karachi, a couple holding hands and walking. Whether it's Karachi or Mumbai, it's a coastal town with a lot of international exchange and peace and love. And it's not quite the same in Newcastle, like.
Well, we're not even near the beach.
No, but people have to look different, you know. I mean, I have a thing about all these things. People don't talk freely, people are scared to talk, and the ones who talk are cut down. What's it called? The tall poppy syndrome? You know, if you're the tall poppy, if you stick your head above the parapet, they'll lop it off.
Well, he who gets the big people fall the worst ways, especially if the big people scare the majority of the small people.
But you stick your head up in the parapet. I've seen you at the hustings. You were so outspoken. I just fell in love with you. I thought this guy is as crazy as me. He speaks the truth.
Yeah.
And the fellow said, "Excuse me, in Gosforth, your car is blocking the cycle." Oh man, get over it. You know, don't be so jealous and so piddly, petty, nonsensical. I didn't know you that much, but I thought, if he's, where else are you supposed to park your car?
As the listeners know, I'm the chairman of STIR, Stop the Unnecessary Red Route.
STURR.
Yes,
And I thought,
stir.
and when I saw your signs, I thought, can't he spell stir? It's
It's
STIR.
the Hindi word for star,
Okay,
as we
okay.
know. So anyway, I've been fighting a year this campaign to stop the Gosforth Transport so-called improvements that Newcastle City Council want done. And they want to stop people parking their car to get out or to do anything on Gosforth High Street.
Right.
So there'll be no loading, there'll be no stopping. And
So
there'll be no
how does
shopping.
business in the high street run?
Well, at the moment we've got 10 empty shops, and I perceive if they close down the car park and then they reopen it with half the capacity, we're going to have another 10 to 15 empty shops.
You're talking about the car park where...
This is the Salters Road car park.
Salters, the corner thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, basically, there was an article in the journal on Monday about the cyclists. Now, the cyclists have a lot of cycle routes throughout Newcastle, and they've also got a non-mandatory cycle route through Gosforth High Street, but they can go other ways as well. But the cyclists have this misconception that this red route is going to help them, but all it's going to do is turn Gosforth High Street into a highway. Nobody can stop.
How many cycles pass through Gosforth? I haven't seen many. Maybe
That
5 a day.
that is a $50,000 question. Nobody knows.
I've never seen any
And
cyclists on Gosforth. I live in Gosforth.
This is what we are fighting. We are fighting for the evidence. We are saying to the council, how many cyclists are using it?
I haven't seen one.
It's the fundamental basis thing. Where is your evidence?
I think,
And we've been asking them and they've not replied. I don't believe they have any evidence.
Is Newcastle City Council run by communists?
The reason...
It's a bit like that, you know. We decide and it's done.
I'll explain, Doc.
Dictatorship's more the point.
This is where it comes from. It
Yeah.
comes from the Cycle Ambition Fund, which is a £5.7 million fund coming from central government. Now, Newcastle City Council has overestimated the amount of cyclists that use Gosforth High Street. They're saying there's 1,000 going down there a day and 1,000 coming back. Well, it's wrong. It's about 200 to 300 people a day. Now, the reason they've
Actually, that's
overestimated
a
it...
counted number.
How do you know that?
How do you
don't
know that? Yes.
Nobody knows.
I don't see more than a couple of cycles on
I
my
don't-
travails.
I live on the high street, so there's a couple hundred a day.
Okay.
But they've overestimated the usage by 5. Obviously, they get 5 times more money from the Cycle
So
Ambition
people are
Fund.
lying.
The Newcastle City Council are lying about the statistics of people who are using cycles in the North East to get their hands on this money from central government. This 5.7.
It doesn't matter what happens to the city and the trade and the business and the people living
But
there.
not only that, they're going to planning to do it on Granger Street. Now, Granger Street is a very, very busy street full of shops. It's not even a main route through the city. They were going to do it on Shields Road. They were going to do it on Shields Road until...
Who are they copying? Are they copying London or
They're
something?
copying London, but I believe it's just to make work and to collect fines.
Well, most of the people in the civic centre can get sick notes for much longer than being a doctor, I know. that they're sick notes. So it's not their job's worth
I
kind of
hope to
thing.
make them a lot more sick when we start this judicial review if they don't change the plans.
So how much are they going to spend on Gosforth for that?
It's £1 million scheme. And
Okay.
basically it's part of the 5.7 million ambition fund, and it's a scheme that was thought out without consultation, without correct consultation
So,
with the residents and the businesses.
Who is in charge, and can they come into a discussion on radio with yourself?
Jed Bell is in charge.
Are you in touch with Jed Bell?
I've met him on numerous occasions at
Well,
the scrutiny meeting
for
and
whom,
cabinet
for
meetings.
whom the bell tolls,
The
shall
trouble
we?
is they won't get in, they just stick to the party line, unfortunately, and they won't listen to anybody else. They're just so arrogant. They obviously,
No, I have nothing against cycles. I'm not going to peddle a cycle.
I
By the
like
way, I
cycling.
carry a lot of equipment, I go places. Maybe I should have a smaller car to be green. But I don't eat as much meat. By the way, meat produces carbon emissions as well. So
It certainly
when
does.
people
God, you
stare
know.
at me, I just put my fingers up to them. I said, look, I'm driving a car that gives me low mileage, and I haven't got the money to get an electric car. But cycling is not going to happen.
When-
I'm 68. So what I have to say is, yes, it's a good idea. Introduce it slowly. That's why I said, is this a communist state?
Yes, yes, but they're not looking at the businesses. They've done no research on the effect of businesses. How many shops are going to close? How many people are going to lose their jobs?
So Mr. Bell's job is not threatened.
We should no, he's
he's
not.
a-
He's fine.
an
He's a
executive
councillor.
officer
He's
of
a
the council.
councillor. But I mean, I'm concerned about the jobs. That's where I'm coming from, and the businesses. Being in
And
business
especially,
myself, I know what it's like.
Yeah.
Where they put double yellow lines around your business, you're employing 6 people,
Uh-huh.
and you think, are they going to lose the jobs? Is my business going to close because of what the council's doing? You argue with them, you go to meetings, you take no notice of you whatsoever.
Because his job is safe.
Their jobs are fine. They're on flexi time. They're on very high salaries.
And any business running in this current climate, I take my hats off to them. It is very difficult. You're competing with the internet, you're competing with each other, banks are not giving loans, and still they're surviving and thriving, and now you want to kill them with a red route.
It's very, very hard work. We had a hotel. It's 24/7.
Hmm.
We were working at the weekends. We didn't get holidays. Very hard work, but we're employing people.
Yes.
That's the main.
You're giving them a livelihood.
Yes, we were,
Yeah.
and we are.
So let's invite Mr. Bell to a discussion
well,
with
there's a number
yourself.
of people who are responsible for this harebrained scheme. Jed Bell, Tom Warburton, a fella called Jonathan Higgins. But at the end of the day, the chief responsibility lies with the chief executive, Pat Ritchie. She's the person I'm actually complaining to at Newcastle City Council. I'm writing letters of formal complaint now, and she said she's put the.
Could you kindly write a letter to the aforementioned and copy it to me saying you're very welcome to a discussion
What's
on radio?
Pat Ritchie's replied? She said she's put the complaint in the hands of the corporate complaints
Oh
department.
man.
So
Obviously
it's
you
just-
need a complaints department, it's so bad.
Well, she needs
It's
a big complaints
unlike
department.
Heineken Lager, where the complaints department,
Yeah, it is
the
probably-
telephone has got cobwebs on it.
Carlsberg's the best one. Probably, anyway.
Was it Carlsberg advert?
Probably the best lager in the world. Cheers,
It's
everybody.
such a shame. And see, Carlsberg puts the
Drink-
money, and I remember
drink responsibly.
Heineken. So much so for making a good advert.
So we're waiting to get back from Pat Ritchie. She's the person, at the end of the day, she's the one in charge.
Okay, so
And
would you-
she's fobbed me off with the corporate complaints department of Newcastle City Council. After that, when I've exhausted my line of formal complaint in Newcastle City Council, I will go to the government ombudsman, and then the government ombudsman will come back with some answers, and hopefully the right answers will stop the scheme and they'll reconsult everybody. But if we don't get the right answer from the ombudsman, we're going to have to go to judicial review. Now already in London, Haringey County Council have had a judicial review against them in regard to
So Haringey
bogus
County Council
consultations.
has won.
Yeah, two
Because
high-
similar to
no,
Newcastle,
sorry.
it's a smaller
about,
place.
It's about
Two-
consultation. It's about having a fair consultation.
Yes, yes.
And, you've
And
got
not just a pretendy one
Yeah,
looking good.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Haringey-
We want to know the truth. We want to see the figures. We want to see the surveys. We want a proper consultation.
Isn't there a Freedom of Information Act in Britain?
Well, there is, but they seem to be very sort of like sparingly.
See, India is a funny
Yes.
country where these kind of things have taken off. A man starved for 30 days or something, Anna Hazare, but he got all over India this Freedom of Information Act. And
need
by
it.
gum, it's stripping the ministers naked and everything.
Yeah, but
Anyone
you
can.
get answer to the questions, but it doesn't mean to say you can move forward, even when you get the answer to the question.
So
You've
it's
got to
regardless of what's staring me in the face, I'll do this, what can you do?
Yes, exactly. We're in
So-
charge. Tough.
Are you saying Newcastle City Council is a dictatorship?
Exactly.
Nick Forbes is the He's the man who seems to
Mr.
be
Forbes, you're very
happy.
welcome, Your Highness.
love him on
Please
here,
come
you
to
know.
the studio. We'll have some discussion.
So, Doc, it's all down to this. It's just basically down because they want to create work, which is there's nothing wrong with creating work. But
Yeah, but your work is killing some other people's work.
Exactly. How many jobs are being lost to keep one man in the council? That's what I want to know. How many private sector jobs are being lost to keep one man working in the council?
But whether it's private or government, is still the Queen's face on the same note, you know. We're still in the same country. And why should we not
Yes,
be
but again,
aware?
If you've got a business and you go bankrupt,
Yeah.
you've lost everything.
You lost everything.
Like
But,
These people keep the jobs, they get big redundancy packages, they get extremely good pensions paid by us.
by
the
taxpayer.
taxpayers,
Yes.
yeah.
So the taxpayer is the idiot who's paying for jobs getting lost.
And this justification for the Cycle Ambition Fund.
Cycle
Yeah,
ambition.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
£5.7 million. What they basically want to do in Newcastle City Council, they want to fill in the subway at Cowgate Roundabout. Now, because some people feel vulnerable using the subway, well, they could put some cameras down
It's
there.
so simple. By the way, we talk
Why
about
fill
India a
the
lot.
subway in?
Today, in India,
Because they
in
get the
Delhi,
Ambition Fund money. That's why they want to do it, because they want the money to get the jobs on the streets, to create the employment which really isn't needed.
You know-
This money can maybe go to a better part of the country where they need sort of better cycleways, mainly being London, which is the biggest, obviously,
So,
place for cyclists. 20 million,
why are they filling the
20 million
subway?
population.
Why would they fill the subway in Cowgate
Well,
Roundabout?
we don't know that. The funny thing is, it's going to go to a TRO, which is a traffic regulation order, and obviously me and Penny are going to viciously object to it. I can't understand why they'd want to fill a subway in, which is totally useful for purpose for cyclists and pedestrians, to put extra lights and traffic crossings,
Which costs nothing.
which they could really
Today,
run the
this
subway.
morning-
Why spend another £2 million in Cowgate Roundabout just because
It
they're
doesn't
getting
cost
money
that
from
much
the
money.
government?
They're lying because
it will cost that because
if
they're gonna
India-
rip it up and there'll be no more roundabouts and
if
there'll be no more
India
subway.
in Delhi, every single bus is going to have a webcam.
Well,
this
we'll have them
morning.
on the trains here.
It's so cheap. If India can afford it, why can't Newcastle Council afford it?
Yeah,
Like,
but the thing is, it's all right having cameras, but if these people have masks, they're going to just put masks on.
no, but there is some threat, isn't there? When the camera is there.
People are
Yeah, but if you're
they
going
put
to close
offline
one subway,
CCTV
are you
surveillance.
going to close all the subways in the city?
So how are people supposed to cross over the
Well, they're
Cowgate
going to
Roundabout?
put extra traffic lights on Cowgate Roundabout to
Oh.
snarl up the traffic even more when it's totally unnecessary. There's nothing wrong with Cowgate
My,
Roundabout. It's
I
really
won't
perfectly
name
okay.
him, my son Shishir, who you'll see hopefully on Saturday, his best friend was in charge of traffic in Newcastle. May I tell you something?
Go
He
on.
does not drive a car.
Yeah, you're probably a cyclist. You know?
So it's like making me in charge.
The point of cyclists though, how many elderly people? I don't want to get on
No,
a
no.
bike when it's freezing cold at night.
But if the philosophy of the person controlling the traffic is that he doesn't drive a car, does he care?
It's not.
It's
good,
like
is it?
me being in charge of the beef sales in Scotland. I don't eat beef. So how can I be in charge? I know nothing about it. I'm not interested.
It's
Do
very
you see what I'm
scary
saying?
What goes on down there at the council?
They don't tell the truth, that's the main point. They don't speak
Dear
the
Council,
truth.
you're welcome. Please do that email.
I would love.
And invite
I've
Richie.
already in the past made a public address to Newcastle City Council. You know, I've made an address at a scrutiny meeting, which basically we were whitewashed with. Obviously, the Liberal Democrat councillors in Gosford are totally against this harebrained red route scheme and halving the car.
So the Liberal chaps are against it.
The Liberal chaps are totally against this. Gosford
So you are against it as UKIP. Liberals are against it. The 120 shopkeepers
Primarily,
are
I'm
against it.
against it as the chair of STIR.
Yeah.
You know, I started STIR before I got involved with UKIP. But honestly, I don't care if we
So you
can
moved
stop
from
this.
STIR to UKIP. So STIR
No,
is your...
STIR's the campaign.
STIR was the
It's a road
campaign.
campaign
Yeah,
group, and
yeah.
STIR was offered assistance by UKIP. They're mentioning Penny here because they're the UKIP transport spokesperson. I was offered assistance at a time when I was offered no more assistance of any other parties. Funnily enough, after about 10 months, well, before the election, all the other parties, apart from the Labour Party, were very interested in supporting me against the Red Route. But
So why is the Labour Party not bothered about people's jobs?
they're not
Who
bothered
probably
about
all the
this.
employees vote Labour actually. You know,
The Labour Party.
you know all the Johnson dry cleaners.
Basically, I think it's basically just to make work for them. They haven't got enough to do, so what can we do today?
No, but
And
follow-
it's also for the fines. They get an enormous amount of money from the parking fines, so it brings in revenue.
For something so negative.
Yes.
So, you know, but think of the 120 shops that you, I
There's
know you.
120 shops in Gosford.
How many employees do they have?
I think
About
one thing I know
300.
for certain,
500?
a little bit under 1,000.
Under
There's more
1,000?
people work in them shops than cycle on the high street.
Yes. Now these 1,000 people probably all vote Labour because they're poor.
Not necessarily.
But
Not necessarily.
generally,
No,
are a
no,
significant.
people coming around to UKIP, we're finding a lot more support.
Yeah,
with the
but
Labour
what I'm
people.
saying, they're not conservatives.
No, they're not conservative.
Okay,
No,
that's what
I
I'm
thought
saying.
I wouldn't
So
thought
it's the poorer people who tend to vote Labour. Except I can't name names. I can see someone on the drive who we were talking about the other day, lives yards from you. But what I'm saying is, if the people who are affected are from your party, for God's sake, listen to it. So why doesn't the Labour Party support you?
The Labour Party are not interested
In that issue.
Labour Party are anti-business. Ever since I've been in business, they're anti-business. They put double yellow lines around shops. People can't park. They're not interested in businesses at all. That is the point.
Well, this is the thing I have against parties, is you have to toe the party line. I cannot toe anyone else's line except my own.
The whip.
Yeah, the whip.
The UKIP doesn't have a whip, so it can toe any line we wish to toe.
So there's no sadomasochistic behaviour.
As long as nobody's going to toe my car off Gossip High Street in the future.
Okay, Penny, I'm glad I made you laugh. So, Penny, as a businessman, the Conservatives deal with big businesses, really, and medium businesses.
There's
Really.
nobody to speak up for small businesses.
That's exactly what I'm pointing. I'm reaching myself.
That's the tragedy of it.
Uh-huh.
There's no real support for small businesses, and most small businesses are struggling. If you've got a shop, you haven't got time to go to solicitors, you haven't got time to go to political parties, you're too busy trying to keep the
Just
shop
keep
open.
going, yes.
Yeah,
And you
absolutely.
certainly haven't got time to go to Acorn Road to use the post office, which they wanted to move from the centre of Gosforth for some other harebrained reason.
Really.
So we're going to lose. The Labour Party, they want us to have a highway going through Gosforth. They want to take away all our car parking. They want to stop people being able to have freer parking. They basically want to do everything against Gosforth, and then we'll come up with the double whammy. Is the post office decide they want to move the post office?
And that's yet another story.
Up Salters Road, you know, miles away from the old people. How are the old people going to get there? It's everything just seems.
You know,
to
a
be
post
against
office is
Gosforth.
more than a post office. It's a culture of people coming
community
and buying
centre.
things and
Well,
footfall.
you see,
And
it brings the other shops benefit
From the post office being
when
there.
the post office closes, the other shops will probably close as well.
because it loses people
Yes.
the focus, their attention.
Now, I
Yeah.
was in the post office on Monday, and there was a queue of 12 people.
In the post
And there
office.
was, now, if they put it on Salters Road, there's not going to be room for people to queue. People
But-
are going to be stood
And
outside.
they want to put yellow lines up there as well. It's
Yeah.
just madness.
So the post office, I know Wazir's thing extremely well. I know how badly he's been done by the police and everyone, and I think he's got a case going on. Why are we killing each other off? I mean, this is also violence. We talk about misogyny and beheading people by ISIS and all. This is just as bad. This is violence of a subtle, quiet, gentle, with a.
I worry about the location.
Velvet hand.
The Salters Road location. It's a busy road. It can be busy and it can be quiet. You know, I worry about, you know, the old people, you know, getting their pensions. And
No, but
getting their
on
handbags
what
stolen.
basis are they moving? Because the rates and rents are too
It's
high.
entirely financial. It's
Yeah, we can't. I don't know why.
basically.
But you know, government service is not
Put
for
the council
profit.
behind it. I don't know. I
Well,
don't know what's going
Well,
on
the,
with it.
the Citizens Advice Bureau are very much against the closure. That's, you know.
Well,
they-
people are against the closure,
Yeah, yeah.
all of us.
Yeah.
But then, army, when does an army profit? Unless British army went somewhere, obviously it profits for Mr. Blair, whatever he wants can happen. But army doesn't have to justify its wage. Customs don't justify the wage, or have they to catch enough so that the traffic wardens unfortunately have to justify the wage. I take it, is that true?
They have to
the
put a
more
certain
tickets they
amount of
put.
tickets on cars every day.
Yes.
Otherwise they lose their jobs.
Really?
I think so.
Well, there's been a few cases in London, particularly where they were given bonuses.
For being a nasty traffic
Yeah,
warden.
giving bonuses, yes.
Okay.
Now, I don't know whether they do it in Newcastle or not.
Okay.
But I know when the students come back, and the parents bring the students back to bring the luggage and everything for
Yes,
them,
yes.
they put in extra traffic wardens to catch the student parents.
That's fine,
Ah, do you know it sounds like Uber, who we started our conversation with. In America, during Thanksgiving, the rates go up to festivity rates, which is
Yeah.
7 times. Not twice, not 3 times, not 4, not 5, not 7 times. So you're paying $7 for every normal
Well,
dollar.
it's the same thing with the flights and the school holidays. You know, they just put the flights up by with 3-4 because it's all, you know, things are very unfair.
So the only God
Yeah.
left on the planet is money.
Well, you know, some people have principles. Thank goodness for that, and thank God.
No, but life is, I mean, if everything is money,
money,
money, then other things fall out of place. Families
John,
break up.
We're not here to get paid. We're here to let people know about us here at Spice Radio and inform people about what's actually going on behind closed
And you're not
doors at
getting
certain
paid, and I'm
places.
not getting paid, and Penny
Penny's
certainly
not
not
getting
even getting paid a penny.
But we're doing it because we want to help people. We want to bring things to people's
we
attention.
enjoy-
It just makes me cross. If I may give you one example.
Please do.
There's a hotel on Osborne Road. The double yellow lines on the back lane. This hotel was getting business shop fitters who may have stayed for 8 or 9 weeks. The second morning they were there, they got a parking ticket, 7:30 in the morning. That's on a back lane. So they said, well, sorry, we've got to move out. We can't leave. We've got to be near our van. They'd lost £10,000 worth of business just from the one parking ticket.
And if that person stayed, then he'd get a parking ticket daily
Well, yes,
for the
but
6 weeks.
But I mean, well, they might have been there long. I mean, we have people who stay for a year. If you get a big job, you can get a company booking all the decorators in, whatever.
Scaffolding, decorator.
For a long time.
Yeah.
So, and they bring other people with them. So these double yards, I wouldn't mind if it was a busy road, but it's on a back lane.
The situation in Jesmond's crazy, and it's all down to, and may I mention it again, the Cycle Ambition Fund. I've been in Acorn Road quite a lot, and obviously that's around the corner from where the hustings were for North Jesmond, just as a candidate.
Yeah.
And every shopkeeper is against this harebrained Acorn Road scheme to make it a one-way, cycle, pedestrianised, mad thing.
So
you've got
the cyclist will stop and buy lots of clothes at Jewels, and he'll stop and buy a lot of tools. They won't,
it's
they're
not going
busy.
to happen because
Cyclists are
will
cyclists.
just get a small carrier bag and maybe pop in and get a few groceries.
Yeah.
But the thing is, all them business
it's
people
unnecessary work.
are against the Acorn Road development. Now, they had a consultation, a bogus consultation. They've had a few of them, as we know. And everybody's fuming. You've seen it in the papers. Stephen in the hardware shop, he's got a campaign going. So anybody in Jesmond who's against the mad Acorn Road scheme can go and sign the petition, and eventually Stephen will be petitioning Newcastle City Council and trying to get some sense out of them.
Stir and Stephen can join hands because of the stupidity
I've been
of the
giving them
council.
advice how to proceed with it, but obviously everybody has their own sort of idea with campaigning. Stir's got some very unusual
Well,
styles.
UKIP generally is pro-business. That's the point with UKIP. None of the others are. The Conservatives are pro-big business.
Yes.
But UKIP is supporting small businesses.
Which is a good thing.
And isn't this a country of small and medium businesses? Britain is made of small and largely.
And you see, you get a small business. Marks and Spencer's had a stall in the Granger Market.
Yes.
It's still there.
Well, Napoleon says Britain is a nation of shopkeepers.
Yeah.
And that was 200 years ago, so we want to be a nation of shopkeepers, we like
one
small shops.
shop. I mean, look at Greg's. Greg's had one shop in Gosford. That's how they started.
And it's a
the
massive
basic.
empire
And
now.
it's massive. But if you're stopping these small companies before they even have a chance to get
grow,
there's no enthusiasm in Newcastle for small businesses. None whatsoever.
It's quite sad. And you are very involved in the double yellow lines. Where do they put, or where should they put double yellow lines? What's double yellow lines about?
Well, they've been putting them down where they've had not an accident in 8 years.
So really, a double yellow line you're implying should be put where
they are
risk
needed.
of height.
If there's been accidents,
Where there's accidents.
where there've been accidents, where there's a black spot, where
Like
the
you're
police-
turning a corner.
Yeah, or the police have said, look, this is dangerous. There's in Corbridge, the traffic couldn't get past. There's a church for weddings. They blocked the street. We need double yellow lines.
Yes.
I'm all in
So
favour of that.
these double yellow lines are from people's habits, organically growing out of people's bad habits.
But the accident ratio, the worst accidents are caused by people on mobile phones. Drugs, drink, icy conditions. In the top 10 accidents, there's a mention of obstruction. There's not one mention
So it's
of
an
obstruction.
old system. The police have an old book that they're hanging on to, kind of an old idea, which doesn't ring true today.
Well, the police aren't. We've asked them numerous times. What evidence have you got from the police that this road's dangerous? Please can we see the evidence? We've not seen one scrap
So
of evidence.
if you had your way, there's many double yellow lines you would like to remove.
Why do they have yellow lines in back lanes?
Back lanes. And
Especially Jesmond's getting these communal bins. They say we need yellow lines so we can empty the bins. But soon, although at the election Jerry Keating said he was going to put a stop to these communal bins, but it looks like North Jesmond are getting them. Soon the communal bins will be at the end of the streets anyway, so the bin men won't need to get access. But I bet they don't take the double
No, but I
yellow
mean, the
lines
bin men are not there working 24 hours a day. They come once a week or twice a week.
You
Once a
could
fortnight.
restrict parking in the back lanes on bin collection.
just
day,
for
but
once
it's just
a
persecute
fortnight.
motorists as usual,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah,
wrong.
but it's only in Jesmond. Lots of streets with identical back lanes, they don't have double yellow lines. It's just hit and miss.
So as long as you have a business, we'll put yellow lines to make it harder for
They
you.
tend to go where the businesses are.
So black.
The good thing about India is common sense prevails in India.
It's slightly more common. I mean, you know, people say, "What's the matter with you? Are you nuts or what?"
We know the parking scheme in India is you leave your handbrake off, you leave your door open, and they just roll the
They roll
car.
that, like in Chicago, yeah,
It's
yeah.
so
yeah.
sensible, you
Yeah.
know. There's a lot of common sense comes out of India. Not so much in relation to the perception of women, but
Yes,
they're
yes.
learning quickly. And
But the perception of women is fast changing,
It
and
is-
has
it
to
is
has
fast
to.
changing.
If India is going to stand shoulder to shoulder with America and Britain and talk about inviting business there,
India will be a super nation comparable to China
well,
in the next 100 years.
I think the new Prime Minister has done a lot of ambassadorial work by reaching out to people, and I hope soon he goes to Pakistan even, because you know, the only way you can deal with a so-called enemy is by talking to them, not fighting with them. I mean, if I don't get on with you and you're my next door neighbor, the only way is to keep inviting you to a party and see what happens,
That's correct, yeah.
isn't it?
Let's hope
Who
over
is
this.
the Prime Minister? I don't know who the Prime
There's
Minister
Prime Minister called Mr. Narendra Modi.
Modi.
He's about 62 years old, I think, I'm not sure. He was serving tea in trains for the first 7-8 years of his life.
Really?
And he's allegedly from the lower caste. I said allegedly because that's what people call it. And still he's become the Prime Minister of the country. And this country,
What's the party?
it's called BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party. And the thing about him is he was 2 years missing. He went to the mountains to meditate.
Really?
So there is a very unusual combination of East and West, and he can speak English as well, though he's never been to an English school. These little things I admire because people can learn, you know, people can and should learn. And he uses an iPhone, and he's on Twitter, so he's got modern machinery. 71% of India voted him in. 71% of India
Really?
voted,
Well,
yes.
That's very high.
In Kashmir, it was for 61% and 42%. I mean, there's nothing below 50% in most of India. 71% is a very big thing in a country full of a lot of illiterate people.
Amazing.
But then he captures them. He doesn't write his speeches. He just speaks
Off
extempore.
the cuff, yeah.
Yeah, because he knows his stuff. So
Well, if you're speaking from the heart, you don't need to write a speech.
people
It's in
can,
your heart, the
pe-
speech is
people
written in your
can-
heart.
People can sense your intonation. A lot
Of
of
course.
people forgive me for what I say because they know I believe in it. If I'm wrong, correct me.
Well, that's we're not
We are not
scripted,
reading.
no.
Yeah, we're not scripted
You know, whereas when you go to a council meeting, there's a lot of scripts.
and
But
transcripts.
it makes you wonder who's supplying the scripts to who, and whether they're actually using their brains or they're just reading. From
So is it the
script.
minute taker who's taking the notes or the minute giver who tells you what to speak?
Well, my experiences, especially with Jed Bell, well, he's given something to say, and it's typed out from. And if anybody asks him a question, he usually asks Jonathan Higgins or Tom Warburton,
Okay.
well, how to answer this question. So maybe he's not fit for the job, Jed Bell. Maybe he's the need.
Mr. Bell, if you don't like what's being said, I didn't
Maybe he's
say
just
it.
come up and have a conversation with me, and he doesn't seem to want to speak to me.
But if you don't speak, you know, I mean, if you
I
don't,
wish he would.
if you don't speak to people, how will you
You've got
know?
to compromise.
Well,
You've
the
got to
frightened,
look after everyone's
that's
interest.
why, Daniel. The frightened.
Well, he's probably on a couple $100 a year, you know, I'm not on that, you know, he probably thinks I'm not worth speaking to, you know. Maybe he's like, I earn a couple $100 a year, get a job on Radio 1 and I
And
then
then-
join his club, you know.
Yes, yes. But really, you become far removed from real people, and you get blood pressure, heart disease, strokes, diabetes. I promise you that. If you're stressed and you're not
Well,
communicating.
I'm quite stressed with it, but these people are on a pedestal and they just seem to look down on everybody who has an alternative view to them, even if it be the majority of the residents in an area they're trying to make a decision about.
But it's a democracy, I thought.
Well, 51% of the people said no in a 3-horse race, and that's an overwhelming majority as I'm concerned. And then the council say, well, it wasn't really a vote because we've lost, so it's not really a vote. Now, if they'd won, maybe they'd say, yes, it is a vote. You know, it seems that the goalposts are being changed an
So,
awful lot.
Well, they're so used to having their own way for so long.
yeah.
They're
So
so
it's a cultural
surprised.
shift, you
They're
think?
so surprised that UKIP and Stir have the temerity even to stand up to them. Just to even stand up to them, they're thinking, my goodness, who are these
Who do you
people?"
think you are?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a taxpayer.
Well, we've all got a right to vote, and we've all got a right to
I think we have a duty to vote, really.
We-
That's
we-
how I
we
think.
just want a fair crack. We just want a fair representation. Newcastle City Council. We want the people's interest to be taken into consideration. We need to understand that the cyclists need safe cycling. I do understand that, but when I originally said when I spoke to Newcastle City Council on the 2nd of April that we needed mandatory cycle lanes on the high street, I was served with the wrong information. They're saying there's 1,000 cyclists a day using the high street, and there's not. There's 200 to 300. And if there's 200 to 300, there's adequate other provision for the cyclists adjacent to the high street and around the other areas, the town moor and around Jesmond. And it's just to get this money, to get their hands on this money to do.
Should we have
central government disservice and waste the money on unnecessary things.
Should we not have cyclist lanes on the motorway then?
Well, motorbikes can go on the motorway.
Yes,
you know.
yes.
Unfortunately, it's a war against most. I like cars and I like driving around.
Yeah.
And I think it's my human right to do that. And if people like cycling, they like cycling.
Fine, do, but don't try to block me. And by the way, I pay for the road tax, not you,
You know,
Mr. Cyclist.
Just
I
look at
know
the
you look very
article.
sexy in your leotards with your
Well,
sexy shape
mine
and
don't fit
body.
me anymore.
No, but
Katja, who is the head of the Newcastle Cycling Organisation, there's a picture of her smiling there, and great, you can have a say, but you know we've all got to have our say.
No, but what's wrong with equally people stare at me when I had a 4x4, not my battered old thingy. I said, what are you staring at me for? Oh, you're driving a 4x4. I said, are you a vegetarian? No, what does that mean? I said, the flatus of cows that you're eating does more harm to the green gas. So,
Of course it does, yeah.
You know, so, but why is this need of this kind of vigilante attitude to each other?
I think the problem is here at Gosforth, it's this divide and conquer. If they can divide everybody, Newcastle Labour led City Council can beat Gosforth and punish it by putting a highway right through the heart of
Are they
it.
jealous?
Then get rid of the
they're
car
not
park
just
and
going
shut all
to
the
do
shops.
it there. They're going to do it on Chillingham Road. They're going to do it on Granger Street. They're going to do it on the West Road. Now, if they
What?
do-
They want to put a red route down
They're
the
going
West
to put the
Road.
red route on the
Down
West
Westgate
Road.
Road.
Let me just
How do these guys get the fruit
they were
and
going,
veg?
let me, may I explain something? They were going to do it on Shields Road.
Uh-huh.
So it was pointed out to them that Shields
To
Road
Jedburgh.
is not a main route. The main route is through the Shields Road bypass.
Yes.
They must have known that. But they
You know
wanted-
that very fast motorway kind of thing?
Yes, that's
Well, you
the
can go
main
40
route
mile an
out.
hour, so it's
That's
not
the
far.
main route out. But they were wanting to do it to get the fines, and they didn't
Oh, I
care.
see. I mean, this is amazing. What you're telling me is Shields Road, which is not so bad at all. I've been there. I've got a nephew with a
It's a great
shop
shopping
there.
centre and there's not
Yeah,
many
yeah.
empty shops in Shields Road.
No, and it's a
Oh,
thriving.
there are
No.
empty shops in
Generally,
Shields
they are
Road.
small businesses. They are poor businesses. You'll see Polish, African,
Yeah.
Indian.
It's a good hub.
It's a good hub for poor people from biker. By poor, I mean they're not as rich as us lot in Heaton, Gosforth, and Jesmond. But if you've got a fast motorway next to it, sadly only 40 miles an hour, why the hell would you want a red route there?
Well, the
Well,
red
just
route,
to
no, the
find
red
people.
route would go up the bypass, which is the main route out of the city. A red route is supposed to be a main route.
Okay.
Yeah, they want to do a main route on Granger Street. But Granger Street isn't a main route. The main route goes down Mosley Street to the Swan House roundabout.
Yes.
Now, can you imagine the damage it's going to do on Granger Street? There's 5 charity shops there. How are people going to drop goods off at the charity
Boxes.
shop? Boxes at the charity. They will not be. They
Why
will
would I be
fined.
bothered to give my clothes away if I get a £30 fine?
Another
Exactly.
crazy thing, Doc, what they want to do, this is absolutely crazy. In Mosley Street and Collingwood Street, well, in Mosley Street basically, they want to put car parking and to get rid of one of the lanes. Now, you know when you come off the Swan House, if you're driving down towards Central Station,
Yeah.
it's a nightmare. There's 2 lanes.
Yeah, and
There's
they
a
sort of
queue.
merge in
They
a
want
funny
to put
way.
car parking and just make it down to 1 lane. And we
Car
know
park
how-
where?
Just opposite, basically. Just basically.
So
if you
shut
come off
the-
the roundabout, it's
shut
stop-
one lane
If you
and-
come off the if you come off the Swan House roundabout
Yes.
and you bear left to go towards the railway station, there's
Yeah.
2 lanes.
Yeah.
They want to put car parking down the left-hand side and have it 1 lane.
Where?
Now,
Oh my
that's-
God!
That's madness. This is what the council are coming up with. They're mad. These people are mad. And then, how long has the Central Station thing been going on for? 3 years now? It seems like 30 years. They
18
start
million,
something.
18 million pounds is spent on that. They haven't got a left luggage department. The people who want to wait for the taxis have to stand in the rain.
Yeah,
And
it's
this
progress,
is
Newcastle
18
City Council
million.
style.
But you see, again, they're unaccountable. They can do exactly what they like.
Well-
and that's where the problem lies.
Okay, may I mention something most people haven't even noticed? You know, if you go on the bypass in Jesmond, that underpass thing, what do you call that?
The Cradlewell bypass.
Cradlewell
Penny
bypass.
knows all about that. She
Okay,
can add
the
to
number
that.
of lights that we have there were at least 20 times more than is now. I haven't actually stopped and counted. But even with 1/10 the number of lights on, there's enough light. So who are these engineers who put these lights in? It was so hot
Obviously
that
got
you could
shares
drive
of
a
light
car
bulb
with
companies.
wet paint, it would dry by the time it comes out. Where
Well,
these
they just haven't got enough to do. If they've got a big department, right, what's so-and-so going to do next week? We must find him some work.
Instead of sitting,
Oh, I know.
instead of sharpening my pencil.
Yeah, I
and
will put some traffic lights here. Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, let's put some double yellow lines here. Yes, that's a good idea. That will give Fred a job for the next fortnight.
But you know, Penny, with modern cameras and webcams, they can easily monitor even those things that you bump over. What do you call them? The pneumatic thing.
The road bumps.
No, no, for counting traffic.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much you can research and do it properly. You can research what happens on a Sunday, what happens on a
Newcastle
Saturday.
City Council do not know anything about research. They just get it wrong every time. And they've done it countless
Well, they make it up
numerous
as they go
times.
along.
Yeah, they like to just sort of like plod along. It's like 40 Towers down there.
Can I get a job there at 68?
I think we both need to
It's
get
a job for life. I think they.
I'll be Manuel, you can be Basil. It's easy down there, you know.
No, you're taller than me. You walk goose step better than me.
Oh, don't
I'm
talk
darker
goose
than you, so I'll be Manuel and get smacked every time.
It's like 40 Towers. They're just basically, they're so
They're
scared.
very
of their
faulty, man.
shadows. They're just so, they just seem to be there to be sort of like trying to preserve their own right
So
to be
why
there. They've
you
got
know,
the right
just
to
like
be there
Yes
to do the job.
Minister, just like Faulty Towers, why can't they have the
Exactly,
series on the
exactly.
Newcastle City Council?
Yeah, we go to the council, right?
Ah, it'll be funny, like,
Yeah.
you
Put
know,
your red,
council pop and
get
so.
your red socks on and your
Aye.
red cycling shorts. With your red bike.
I have nothing against
The funny
cyclists, but
thing is, you know,
I'm proud to be a motorist, you know. It's
The
a bit
funny
like,
thing is,
Mind
you
you,
know,
another thing you
Go on.
mentioned, which is the buses. Now, I like to get on the bus.
Good.
I travel on the buses, I have a bus pass,
Uh-huh.
and I do support the
Fine.
buses.
But the bus is,
especially the
but the bus is looking after a lot of people at
Yeah,
one time,
Yes,
and not cyclists is not.
exactly.
well, Doc, there's 8 million cycles in Beijing. And sometimes I think Newcastle City Council
Wishes they were here.
8 million in here in Newcastle. But the thing is, we know China is a country,
Massive country,
communist country.
1.4 billion. All right, but there's similarities there.
Well, yeah, I think they just fancy this idea of everybody going around on bikes and then they run around in the big flash cars. But the good thing is our mayor has got an electric car now, which I think is a fantastic improvement. On
But
the
these
big
are
cars, 'cause the
examples
limousine
given
used
to us.
have.
Yes,
And
yes.
who's paid for it?
Well, the ratepayers and the council taxpayers and the business people, you know. And the
No,
people.
but the electric car shows that it's an example to everyone to want to. How big is it? It's not a big one, is
It's
it?
a small electric car, and I think.
So I respect that the
it's a
mayor
good
is bothered
thing,
to
but
sit in a
I
small
don't know who
car.
was behind it, though,
yes,
where the
but
idea came
electricity's
from.
only coming sorry, I forgot.
Where does electricity come from?
No, the electricity
To run the car?
to come from the car
Hmm.
comes from the power station.
Yes, yes.
So, you know, if the power stations are giving out emissions, is it actually doing any good?
I
Nobody
think-
really knows.
I think the green business is full of loopholes and full of rhetoric and full. I mean, you know, the first day I saw one of those big turbines, wind turbines, I said to my then wife, I said, this country is so beautiful, why they're damaging it? Because the amount of electricity produced is minimal compared to the damage to the looks of this beautiful country. And in Blythe, the biggest one, the cable is still cut, it's still not repaired. So, you know, it's just I think, is Britain kind of doing things for getting to look good and not doing good? What do you think is happening? I mean,
Job creation, that's what it's about, job creation. Just they'll do anything. to
so
create
common
jobs.
sense.
Yes, but we should be doing the fracking, because the fracking won't be as harmful.
Well, there's people who have come to the studio and they're totally anti-fracking, and
Well, people
they've had
say-
their jaws broken in Manchester for...
People say the fracking's basically, if somebody's underneath your house, no matter how deep down it is in the land, in the ground, it's still your bit of land, and so they're,
Oh, but
they're
that's
abusing your right to own your bit of land.
Right. Oh.
Yeah, but we have
Oh, so I see. So if you own your property, you own it right to the core of the center of the earth.
Well, it depends how you see it, you know. It's like,
It's a load of-
should somebody be under your property fracking?
Well, what are you sitting under?
Well, look at the coal mines.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
have
well,
coal
the same
mines.
thing happened with the coal mines,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
They go under your house,
Yeah, you never
and you
knew,
don't
did
own the coal.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe I should start digging my house. Might find a Kohinoor diamond, you know.
Maybe we should start doing coal.
No, but a lot of this is just ideological wars. It's a
We've
load
talked
of
about ideology many a time.
it's a
and,
load of nonsense actually.
it's hard to understand, but we'll have to, everybody has to.
And when you say you
compromise.
own a property, you don't own it. The banks own it.
It's
And
just-
even if you owned it, the lease
We'll
is
never
only
own
for
anything. We're
No.
just the guardians until
exactly
we go to heaven.
Heaven.
Hopefully.
You think you'll go to heaven?
I'm,
Not if
Hoping.
not if the council are their way.
I'm hoping. You know,
I think you'll be employed in your next life in the council as the bin removal man.
Oh no.
Just
no.
to punish you.
You'll be a bin man.
They're just to punish him. He's been a has-been man.
Well done. Good pun, Doc.
Oh my God. So, do you think if you're not so clever, you go into the council? If you're clever, you do your own private
No,
business?
I think a lot of the people who, you've got to remember, there's the executive officers, there's some employed ones and there's some who are voted in as councillors and then they're accepted.
But don't the councillors have a bit more teeth?
The councillors, well, you know, some of them can't string a sentence together. Some of them are too scared to say what they think.
But that's amazing. They are my
Some
people.
of them are quite good.
And they get very good expenses. Some of them get 12,000 a year, so they're not going to put a foot wrong if they're going to get 12,000
if they get
a year.
12, no, but they are voted by me, not by the people in the council. They are the watchdog for me in the council, aren't they?
Yes, but they don't get a vote. It's run by the whip.
You've got to follow the party line.
You've got to follow the party line. So really, a lot of them just collect the money and go home.
So if I vote for someone who may be Labour or Conservative or the other, they follow the party line. They don't have their own brains. They can't use their own initiative.
Well,
they can't speak for themselves.
What worries me, though, is when they put this if they can't get away with putting the red route in High Street, Gosforth High Street, they'll start spreading it. It'll be like a spider's web. Think of all the shopkeepers on the West Road. You know, all the ethnicity of the West Road's fantastic. You know, you get a lovely chicken there for £3. It's beautiful, spicy. I love spicy food, as you know. You know, and these are Labour-controlled areas. You know, I think it's going to affect the vote. If people start thinking they're going to put red lines down the West End of Newcastle, I think we're seriously going to see some change in the council.
If Tesco happened in the car park
in Newcastle.
What about the Tesco thing in the car park in Newcastle General Hospital? If that happened, a lot of the stuff will go.
Well, you know, these big companies, you know, it's crazy that they can get away with things. The one good thing is we stopped the McDonald's. Well, the local people did. I didn't stop it. At Crofters.
Coming up at...
that was stopped, and there was one big business kept in place. But whether we can keep the rest of these big businesses in place, it's in the hands of the gods.
So, what you're saying is, when there is a need, businesses should be stopped. And when there's no need, don't kill them.
Well, I reckon, once all the small independent shopkeepers, like, well, you know, we used to have corner shops in South Shields. I was born on Ocean Road. Once they all go, and they're all little Sainsbury's and little Tesco's, all Tesco's and Sainsbury's, they're just going to put the prices up. And there'll be no competition.
We're not going to have the choice. We're not going
We are
to
not
have
in a communist country, is what I think.
We're not going to have the choice. That's the point.
See, if it's a capitalist country, then we should have more chains and more this and that. However, if the net effect is you behave like a communist country, then Sainsbury is one ruler, all these Asdas are the other one, and Asda is connected to Walmart or something. I don't understand this, you know.
Well, when I first got involved with Stir, I went to Greg's main office, I went to various banks, and they just wouldn't entertain me. He says it's not our policy to get involved with local campaign groups.
What they're saying is
that's big business. That's no big business.
What they're saying is we don't care.
Well, they just.
That's what it means.
I think that what they really mean is we like the council because they let us get away with all these planning things. Therefore, we're not going to support an individual person who lives in the community who's got a lot more people supporting us now at Stir, because it might be detrimental to our position in regard to any planning we get in the future that will support this man. I didn't get any support from Greg's, which I found very, very surprising, because the first shop was in Gosforth High Street. And
they're very popular.
Then I go in the banks, and the banks say, oh, no, we're not interested. And I'm doing all this, and I'm not getting paid to do it. I'm going in, I'm trying to... you feel humble when you go in a bank, and when you speak to them. And sometimes I used to go in banks, and I used to have to wait 20 minutes before somebody would come out and say, no, head office wouldn't want nothing to do with that.
So any business controlled from somewhere else will behave like that,
I did get support. Newcastle Building Society giving me support.
Okay, that's good.
That was good. And
so tell me the positive ones. Forget the negative ones. Who are the positive ones that supported you?
Well, it's quite good. Obviously, Thorpe's, you know, that's an old established shop.
Yes, beautiful shop. Love it.
Obviously, Ken at Yumlush, and he's one of the members of the campaign group in town.
Ken was the artist sitting at his window.
That's correct. Yumlush, yeah, an artist. He's a fantastic artist. Obviously, you're the florists, because obviously you need to come and get your flowers.
Catherine Flower Shop?
Yeah, Catherine's and the florists next door.
On the other side, yeah.
To the co-op. The 5-star taxis, fully supportive.
Wow.
But everybody was really, really supporting it.
But Santander, Lloyds Bank, Nationwide,
they just wouldn't touch Stir with a barge pole, you know. And we tried to touch their hearts, and unfortunately, most of
so
us
really, when power gets
you're not going to get away with it with us.
So it is power getting centralized. We started with Uber, who starts in America, and it's the same thing, really. the more centralized the power. You know the
You know what they say about power, absolute power corrupts. Absolutely.
yes. But you know the dinosaur had two brains. He had a neural collection in one brain, like the head, and there was a big lump at the tail because the elbow did not know from the other end. It's true.
Yeah, your arse doesn't know your boyfriend.
I didn't want to use the word arse on radio,
Sorry,
but now that you've said it, I'll use it.
but
So, basically that's what happens. Northern Rock had my home papers, my house papers, and my surgery papers. I'm a daft GP, I'm from India anyway. I didn't know these things. They had both accounts, both my papers. They were meant to be giving me a mortgage on my home. But the papers they described on the account was 4 consulting rooms, 3 nurses' room, 1 practice manager's room. I mean, what kind of a home has these things? They don't read. And that is Northern Rock, which is a couple of furlongs from my house.
well,
They never come and look at the property. That's what I'm saying, that small businesses are real.
But look at the banks. Look how badly the banks treat small businesses.
But but if you know your customer, you can take a slightly more risk. If you don't know,
The trouble is with the banks, they're hiring and firing at such a blooming fast rate. You know, once upon
That there's
a
no
time, you knew your
continuity.
bank manager, you knew him for 25, 30 years of your
Yes.
business now, but there's so many new people turn up and they've got no interest in small businesses. They basically just want to tick boxes.
but
and
even
they
the
don't-
managers
they don't
are on
make
low
books.
wage and they use phones like Nokia.
Well,
Tiny little phones. They can't afford an iPhone. I've seen this I said, why are you using this phone? You can't afford a better. And this is what the banks give us.
It
Now, what
amazes me.
respect can I have for a bank manager who's poorer than me?
It amazes
You know,
me.
these are very subtle things to say to you, but it's true. And as the businesses get centralized, the more prolific they become, the less human, the less humane, the less forgiving, the less real.
They want to maximise their profits and minimise their.
But is
efforts.
business
The
about
bank
money or is
system,
it
yeah.
about service?
In the banking, I think it's about being answerable to the shareholders and the chairman and the chair.
Somewhere in
the
London
chair of
and
board.
the shareholder maybe in Australia who doesn't give a damn what happens on the Gosforth High Street.
Banks have too much power and they want to protect that power by not getting involved with.
But I
local
must flag up
communities.
Lloyd's Bank. The girls there are fantastic. They smile, they laugh, they tease, they joke.
Well, you know,
So somehow they keep.
no Lloyds are cutting a lot of jobs next year.
And
Yeah.
I think they're
We don't
closing
know.
some branches as well.
You know, I think that with the shopping centre, you know, about, you know, you hear rumours.
They just
Lloyds Bank.
outfitted it.
You know, they want everybody doing banking online. They wanted to get rid of cheques, didn't they? You know what I mean? People like cheques. I like to send a cheque.
No,
in the
but let
post.
it
It's a good
happen.
excuse when I
Why
don't
not?
pay my
Why not
bills.
let it
So the
happen?
cheques in the post.
You know, if you were totally against the internet, then you'll become like Kodak, who's just gone bust.
I'm never,
HMV, who's gone
We
bust.
still should
I've
be
never
allowed to have our
taken money
checkbooks.
out of a machine on the wall ever. I've no idea how to get money.
Are
out
you
of a
from
machine.
Lancashire?
Yes.
I've been dying to say that.
Well, you know.
No, I am totally for modern technology, but I'm also a human
You
being.
still have to have a choice to use
Yes,
the
but,
traditional
but
methods.
often,
as
if,
well.
No,
you
but
go to Amazon, if you go to Amazon, right, you try and buy something on Amazon, and you've got a problem, there's no phone number.
Exactly.
A lot of these places, they do
Exactly.
not put a
I
phone
tell you,
number on.
I only-
And if you're older, it's difficult.
I only buy cheap things on Amazon because I can't return it. I look at Amazon, think of the choices, talk to my friends and go and buy from a shop, perhaps 10% more. But I can go back and say, here's a phone.
Yeah.
Honestly, I really do that. I wouldn't buy a car on Amazon. People do. On eBay. On what's the other one called?
Well, there's a few, isn't there? There's
There's all kinds of things.
Byte, is it not Byte?
Gumtree.
Gumtree and
Yeah. But you get what you pay for, you know. I mean, if you're buying everything on the internet and if anything goes wrong. PayPal. I was in India and so I got a text in India, email, saying, thank you for changing our account details. For the life of me, I'm a persistent bugger man. For 2 months I tried, I could not speak to anyone. YouTube, they closed my account because I had something which had music in the background and too long. So copyright got me.
Yeah.
I'm making no money. I'm actually promoting Ravi Shankar.
of course, yeah.
But they can't, Americans can't understand this because they are so narrow in their view of money. So really,
Americans are crazy people. You know, 90% of the Americans just stay in America when they go on vacation.
Canadians are sane Americans.
Well,
Yes.
I have a lot of time for
Yes,
Canadians.
yes.
They're well spoken, they're
Yes.
soft hearted, they're gentle, they're
Yes.
kind.
then what are people from Alaska like then? I've never
Yeah.
really met any. I've never
No,
met anybody
but
from
I mean,
Alaska.
somehow there's something very aggressive about America.
But the Canadians have the good sense to still keep with with Britain.
But Canadians are soft spoken. I mean, the French ones are a bit too French, but the others are quite okay, you know. And there are a lot of Asians there. There's no racism, really, almost not. America is still what happened when the big hurricane came to the blacks.
Well,
Nobody-
America's still got the general custard attitude, haven't they? You know.
What happened to the fellow who shot the black guy? How can the jury not trial him? How can you leave a policeman, young black guy with his hands up in the air, and the bugger shot him, and you can't have it?
America's going to take a few more generations to.
But on the other hand,
Look at all the guns they have in America.
but look
You
at
know,
Mr.
that's fine.
Is it Simpson, who the black
O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson got let off?
Well, then he got jailed after.
So the colour of
Something
money
else.
matters more than the colour of the skin.
Well, you know, Uncle Sam. You know,
Was it
it's
not ever thus, though?
country of donuts. Isn't it?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
love the donuts in America, don't they? And a lot of them are donuts.
No, I think there's a price. Even in Canada, my sister-in-law says, "Oh, you know, brother," she calls me brother. This phone, if you use this, it's 50p a second. If you use that, it's 20 cents a second. If you use 10, I said, you'll be lost all your life worried about the phone bills. You'll never achieve anything. You know, if there's too much of this commercialism, England is somewhere in the middle, and I decry many things here, but most things are pretty damn okay. You know, once I'm on any system, it works, you know. In America, you're constantly saying, if I go through this phone system, it'll be that phone system, it'll be Roger's system and this system. So people are so trapped in just trying to save money. They never do anything in their lives. That's what I see.
Well, as I say, America is the land of the automobile, you know, so it's got
No
one
red
good
lines
thing. There's no red lines, and actually in America there's actually no roundabouts. They don't have
Yeah,
roundabouts.
they can't
in
cope with
America
it. You need
because
brains.
the roads are big.
No,
highways.
is it that, or is it they can't cope with the brain being used in a roundabout? You have to
they
be
don't know where to
curt-
give way. They don't give way to many people, you know. They're
No,
used to not giving way.
but seriously, on a roundabout, you have to judge the other person's
give way to the
body
right.
language, isn't it?
You have to give way to the right on a roundabout.
But equally, if I see someone opposite me coming very fast, the little bugger is determined to get past me, so I wait. But if I see someone gentle and nice, like quite far from me, I know by the time they've decided to come, I will have shot through.
You're
Well, what
considered
I
driver
like
dog,
about
it's a good
Newcastle
thing.
is,
Go on.
if you let somebody pass you, they always wave, they always acknowledge
I
you,
think that's
they say thank you.
That's what the world is for, you know. If you're gracious and kind to people and
Yeah.
thank them. This morning I was coming here and I was slightly delayed, and there was one woman trying to cross the road, and where the quick fit is. I just slowed my car. I can hold traffic back, but this poor thing is windy, it's cold, she's just rushing across. Yes, she shouldn't have crossed there, but I'm not the judge, you know.
Absolutely.
Just slow the car down, let her go, and I can show off on radio saying I'm a nice person.
It's the same reason that you should not be upset with learner drivers. Everybody's got to
No,
learn.
no,
And everybody's got to be
no.
willing to let learning
I only think if that learner driver was my son, would I object?
let learning happen.
Would I mind? Of course not. You know,
Absolutely not.
old people, deaf people, people who are drunk even. I stop, you know. I mean, what's the point? I don't want to frighten him into, you know, do you know what I'm saying? We're not kind enough. I think England has a lot to teach the world in that respect.
England, we
Well,
love
what
it,
we
don't
do
we?
as well, lots of people get off the bus, they say thank you to the bus driver.
Yes.
Of course
That
they do,
happens
yeah.
a lot, and I think that's really
That's
good.
about respect.
But one thing
It's
the
about
Americans
respect
do when the
for
plane
people.
lands, they all clap. Is that because they're saying, thank God this guy got us across the Atlantic and we are alive still?
Yeah.
No, but it's nice, you know, it causes a camaraderie. I like that kind of behavior.
Well, I remember when we used to go on a trip. You know, you'd always like pass the hat round for a little tip for the bus driver.
Yes, and why not?
You know, old-fashioned
Well,
customs.
why don't you at
Still
Christmas
like-
time do some Christmas singing at the Civic Centre and put some lyrics and on a loudspeaker and sing to them?
Well, we could say we could make a stir song. couldn't
Just
we?
no one cornetto, give it to me. No more stir in Gosforth, give it to me.
Oh, we've got plenty planned for next year.
Let's do something like
keep
that.
the campaign going.
Okay, I thank you very much. It's been a lovely show, and we started with a little tiff, didn't we, Penny? But we become friends because people with personalities always have a bit of a brush, isn't it? It's lovely finding you as a teacher, and thank you for telling me that the lady who died for women's rights was from Morpeth. I feel very grounded. I really feel, you know, when I come across, you tell me, when I cross the Tyne Bridge, when I see Penshaw Monument coming up from London in the train, I'm home. When do you feel you're coming home?
Well, my home is in Lancashire.
See?
I'm
She's still in
very-
Lancashire.
Still very Lancashire.
I've left India and I'm sitting in Gosforth and Newcastle enjoying it, and you're still in Lancashire. What's your feeling? You're from South Shields.
Ocean Road, Asian Road, South Shields.
So you two are still away from Newcastle, whereas I'm embedded here.
My grandparents had a fancy goods shop and we're overlooking the Indian restaurant next door, and I always remember
I'm
how they used to
starving,
prepare the
come on.
chickens.
Okay. Okay, namaste, adab, sat sri akal.
You don't mind, dear, but I'm starving. I've had nothing to eat today.
That's it.
Why are you fasting? Isn't it? Without a pub license, it's exactly the same thing, wouldn't you say?
Yes, and now talking about the London scenario, in Piccadilly in London, I have come across people who don't have any license whatsoever, and they're touting around for passengers because they know about 2 to 3 in the morning people are coming out nightclubs and there's a huge shortage of taxis, so they will offer and they pick up a few pounds, taking somewhere out of London for 20, 30, 40 pounds.
20 million people live in London,
Yes.
and obviously there's a shortage of...
True.
Because, you know, a
transport sometimes.
taxi driver is in a very intimate place.
He's like a guardian.
With a man, yes.
He's a guardian of his
Yes,
life.
like a teacher to the
Guardian of the
student,
journey.
like a doctor to the patient,
True.
like a fireman to the person he's evacuating, like a AA man. These men particularly have to be very nice, gentle people who treat the woman with respect and kindness and courtesy. Doesn't matter if they're drunk or not, it just doesn't matter. Their job is to take them A to B, and the reason that woman has got in your cab is not because she fancies you, is because she needs to be taken somewhere, and the government has rubber stamped
Absolutely,
him.
yes.
Now, if you don't rubber stamp, I mean, despite all that, we still have grooming and all that in Newcastle, never mind other places like that. Despite all that, which brings me to our dear friend Penny, who's chomping at the bits, I hope. Penny, say something. Because, you know, despite all this, males still dominate females all over the world, less so here. So tell me a bit about suffragettes and things like that, because I take great pride in women being called human beings. Most people don't, you know.
Women didn't have the vote. They couldn't vote. They couldn't take part in elections. They were second-rate people.
Yes.
So Mrs. Pankhurst and her family got together, started a suffragette movement.
Right.
And it was...
How long was it? 95 years ago? Something?
About 95. It was before the First World War. And the government would take no notice whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
some silly woman, you know.
They got tougher and tougher and tougher, and they ended up by throwing bricks through windows, tying themselves to railings.
And someone died, didn't she, running with a horse?
Emily Davison. She was killed under a horse.
I don't think she wanted to die. She just wanted to give a petition.
Yes, she was. She was from Morpeth.
Really?
She was from Morpeth. But
I'm so proud to belong to the Northeast, honestly.
Yeah.
Wow.
The point was, the worst thing about it was, they were put into jail and it was cat and mouse. They'd go home and then they'd come back and say, you're going back to jail. They wouldn't eat. They starved themselves and they were force-fed, which meant there was a tube put down the nose so that they could, to make them eat.
So that they have to eat, yeah.
And quite a number of them came back out of hospital and they died later because of the effects of being in jail.
So they were killed, really?
Yes,
Right.
they were marvellous women.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Pankhurst came from Lancashire, she was from Manchester. But the reason why they were given the vote, eventually, because of the First World War, the men had all gone out to fight.
And they needed the women to make the bullets and wear the trousers in the factories.
Yeah, and on farms, bus conductors. 1919, they were given the vote.
Well,
but not all of them. I think you had to be over 25 before you got the vote.
And men, what age were men voting?
I'm not
18,
sure.
maybe 18 or something.
I don't know. I think it was 21. It may have been 21.
Oh, so women had to be extra smart to be able to vote.
Yes, yes.
You know, this
but
business...
it was a wonderful thing. It was a wonderful thing
we talk about women's rights in Britain, where it's 100 million times better than most of the world.
Yes.
I'm not talking even about anywhere too far from here. It's different in Spain, it's different. Women are respected in Britain more than I think anywhere else that I've seen. Bad things happen, but largely they don't. Largely women are respected. And I simply can't understand that if women are half the workforce, love force, human force, why does one half need to put the other half down?
In Britain we have very good rules and legislation and laws, which unfortunately are not even there in some parts of Europe.
And certainly not in
used to be the
Indian
Iron Curtain
subcontinent.
countries, so we can't really blame India for not having a criminal records bureau, which would definitely prevent.
No, but you can say that the Delhi police should have checked every taxi driver, or bus driver's antecedents. Especially taxis is a very intimate place.
Perhaps the system is not in place in our system in Delhi.
I'll be very happy to say by the end of December, every single taxi driver in Delhi air cab, no cab, every cab.
I'm sure.
Will be checked.
With what has happened now, this will definitely help in implementing certain rules which weren't there already.
Huh.
So it's like 2 years ago when Jyoti Singh Pandey
Yes.
was raped in a public bus, sadly. And of course that set off the alarm signals in various parts of
So
the
people have
society
taken
in India.
heed, and I really want to bring up the topic about transport and how we control transport
Right.
and people in transport. And
Yes.
Delhi police, I applaud. I don't often praise people like that, but I must
Sure,
applaud them. Delhi police went all the way to Mathura, found his cab,
All right.
because the guy had even
Really great.
erased his Uber account.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the problem. I love technology, but you cannot replace real human contact with technology.
You can't.
And this company doesn't care. It's worth 40 billion or something.
Wow.
It just doesn't
It's an
mind.
international setup,
A few
and-
rape
yeah,
here, a few rape there. There have been
True.
and Uber. I'm disgusted. There was a woman journalist whose name I can't see just now. She stood up against them and they threatened her. And they've got $1 million account to challenge people who challenge the company. Can
Right,
you believe?
right.
Not lawyers,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
to harass
yeah.
them.
But sadly, given the circumstances, the same thing would happen here, and
Yeah, yeah.
it happens in the United States as well.
Okay.
In fact, US is a much bigger country, so things get lost in the system.
Yeah, but the US, at least it's easier to find the office. Okay, I welcome into the studio two more people. A lady called Jenny, who's the transport spokesman for UKIP.
Penny.
And Penny, sorry.
Penny,
One
very
spelling-
good.
One first letter mistake.
Welcome.
Apologize. Hello, Penny. And I've got my old friend, who you know, Daniel.
Daniel, of course,
Thompson.
yeah, we met so many
Of
times. here.
UKIP, my good friend. And
Very
Saturday,
good.
Yes.
Saturday night is a party, isn't there?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, welcome to the studio. I'm sorry to start on such a sour note, but I cannot allow anything that's happening to a country where I was born to go away unnoticed, having done something of that order.
We have to mention something about
What do you make of all this, Daniel?
Well, Uber, the firm, as we know, obviously it's on the internet and to get there through your iPhone and everything like that. And obviously people are going to use it as a weapon against women. That's all I can think about. People
Because, you know,
think, I can
software
use this.
companies are there to make money. There's no reality. It's a virtual place.
Well-
So it's very risky and dangerous. I think taxis should be very, I mean, rightly so. In Britain, things are much better. Things do happen. Penny, you were saying, I keep calling you Jenny. Penny, you were saying that a similar thing can happen in our own part of the world.
Well, I have a granddaughter, she's 13,
Uh-huh.
and she has to travel from Felling to Newcastle.
Uh-huh.
We use the taxis a lot.
Mhm.
And we are putting our granddaughter in the hands of the taxi driver.
Yeah, you are.
Absolutely.
And we have to be really careful. We use the same firm every time. We check as she arrived at her mother's. It's very, very important. They also take the grandson who's 8.
Okay.
Taxi drivers are very important. They have to be registered.
And
Yes.
the reliability,
They have to be safe.
yes, safe people.
Because you're putting your children
Inside a
their-
box.
Yes, in their hands.
Absolutely.
In the hands.
Well
So
spoken.
I'm
well spoken.
appalled. I'm appalled.
But can I tell you, in Delhi, when I go, I've got a chap called Ram Singh. He's a Sikh man who lives near my sister's home, and his taxi is there. I can put £1 million in his pocket, and he won't take it. You know, that's how it should.
But I'll tell you, this is very amazing that, you know, the perspectives of equality of women and the protection of women are different. I mean, I'm talking about 40 years ago in London, I was working with an accountant who came from South Africa. And he told me, he said, in South Africa, if there's a bus and there are 10 women there, they have to be given the seat to sit down, essentially, by any man. And he was very sad to find in London, on the terms of equality, if a man sitting there, he won't get up and offer the seat to a
Well,
woman.
culturally, in Calcutta, for all the rush, Calcutta is one of the dirtiest, busiest cities.
Right, it's a business.
But it is one of the most cultured cities, and they respect women,
Right.
and they'll get up for a woman. Not in Bombay, and certainly not in Delhi. Delhi is a funny political animal, you know.
Right.
Men jostling with women, it's all about, they're all Mahajars actually.
Right, right.
Delhi is a state created by people who left Pakistan, who left
Who
Bihar.
came from the other
who
side of
left
the border.
Not just that, from Kerala, from Bangalore.
Okay.
So it's like London, where money matters.
Yes,
And only
yes.
money matters.
And of course,
Wouldn't you say, Daniel, where money becomes, the stock exchange becomes the controller of people's culture, the culture just devalues.
True.
And I think Delhi is I've studied in Delhi for 3 years.
it's a capital as well, so.
No, but the capital should be an example and a beacon.
True.
But Delhi is not. Delhi is, I'm ashamed to say, not a place where I would ask my sister to go in the bazaar and shop by herself, even today, now. I've lived in Delhi for 3 years. So it's changing though.
Yeah, when I was in Delhi, I got the train from Delhi to Lucknow, and then the train from Lucknow to Varanasi. And
Hey,
there were,
well travelled man.
Of course.
Hey,
thank you.
he's a joker in the pack, man.
there were lady-only carriages. Now the problem with lady-only carriages, some ladies would think it would be unequal to have lady-only carriages.
Yes, yes.
So that you're trying to fight on two fronts. You've got the independent lady who says, I want to jostle and be independent.
And
be
sit where
equal to men,
people sit, not men.
and sit where the men are. But the problem is there's some nasty people out there. Now, give a lady a choice. Some of the ladies want to be independent and they're quite confident and self-confident in India. They can sit in the mixed carriages, but those who are a little bit self-confident, maybe shy or maybe a bit older, can sit in the lady-only carriages. Now, I think that's a good thing. I think that gives ladies and women independence, that they've got that choice, and it really makes the men think that they have to respect the ladies.
Yes, it's a symbol.
Yeah.
Like in London, there's a hospital of the women, for the women, by the women. Now, I don't really advocate such things, but if a woman chooses to, I find it very strange that if a woman walks into the practice, there's 3 male doctors ready to do a smear. Go on, Penny.
I went to an all-girls school.
We went to an all-boys school.
And it was
Pity.
the best thing that happened to me.
No,
I was really
no,
glad
no.
to go to an all-girls school because
no.
we weren't affected by the boys.
That's
the
right.
teaching was better.
Yeah, yeah.
We were concentrating on what we
Till
were
what
doing.
age? Till what age should we have all-girls school or all-boys school? Single gender
well,
school.
I went to mixed school till I was 11, and I was happy in the mixed school till I was 11. But at the senior
So
school,
it takes some time to get used to the other gender.
Yes.
They look different, they talk different, they
No,
walk
but
different.
We had a better education, and we were not distracted. Now I was a teacher, and I
Ah,
taught,
right.
and I taught home economics
Wow.
with girls. They all worked well. They tried hard.
Put one boy in and the whole mix
And
changes.
then another time I had to do some supply teaching with the boys, and the girls were different because the boys were there, the boys were making comments.
Okay.
The
All the
girls,
time,
The
yes,
girls
yeah.
get a better education in a single sex.
Without being distracted by the opposite gender.
Yes, I mean you do get schools. We had a boys' school next door. So we had social functions.
Right.
But the general teaching was girls only, and I think I was so lucky to
I
do that.
actually agree with you. I go to schools to do music, Indian classical music. And up till the age of 10, 12, they're innocent. The girls are not wearing fishnet tights and putting lipstick on, and the boys don't.
पिछले 3 सालों में बिना इंश्योरेंस के ड्राइविंग का केस भी उस पर ना हो। पिछले 3 सालों में लाइसेंस सस्पेंड करने की
नमस्ते, आदाब, सत श्री अकाल। मैं डॉक्टर आनंद अभी तक आपको हिंदी में बता रहा था। I've got guests who can speak English. Therefore, we'll switch to English now. Very good afternoon to you and welcome everybody. I want to carry on this Uber debate for a bit before we get into other topics. We've got some very important people in the studio. Basically, Uber is a ride and share taxi service in San Francisco. You might wonder why the Delhi rape has anything to do with it whatsoever. Basically, this has been a transport service, but unfortunately, it's become worldwide. And I say unfortunately because first they started with full-size luxury cars for hire. It was called Uber Black. And the company has really flourished, and it's in 200 cities in the world. However, in December, there was one famous rape. Just like 2 years ago in India, one girl was raped horrendously, and it has changed slightly the psyche of Indian males, because we'll talk about misogyny as well. A taxi is a very dangerous place for women, therefore the taxi's antecedents, the taxi drivers' antecedents, all must be taken into account. Uber is not bothered. Now, you'll be very happy to know that Thailand, Spain, France, and England are places where huge protests are taking place. In India, Delhi, the taxi service has been banned. Let me tell you about this driver. In his younger days, he was beaten so badly because of molesting women in his village that he's deaf in his right ear. He then is never police checked. He produces a fake certificate. I can print a certificate and sign as the police commissioner. Unless you check it out, he's not the police commissioner, it's me. Similarly, he had a fake certificate. His car is not MOT'd. His car was not meant to be driven in Delhi because he didn't have a Delhi license, but that's just a technicality. But the guy was in jail for 7 months for a rape. They couldn't prove it. You know what lawyers are there for, to make money. And they'll get rapists and pedophiles off the hook. And they think they're doing a great job for society. I'm not about innocent people being punished, but I'm definitely not about people waiting for trial for ages, as I've seen certainly in India in Tihar jail. There's 13,720 prisoners, 70% awaiting a trial because lawyers are making money in the meantime. So coming back to Uber, this guy, everything wrong. This woman, 27, pretty, young, in a multinational company in Gurgaon. It all reeks of trouble because she's not used to bad men. She goes to a party at 10 in the night, comes home about 11:30, presses a button on Uber, in comes the picture of Ram Singh Yadav or some idiot like that, and the taxi thing. She's drunk, remember, she's sleepy, she gets in the taxi, she drives, gives her address, and the fellow starts driving. He's glowering at her through his rearview mirror, finds her sleeping, takes the taxi elsewhere. I personally wouldn't fall asleep in a taxi, though I'm a bloke, but this woman unfortunately did. He then stops the taxi, starts molesting her sexually. She comes awake slightly, starts stopping him. He slaps her several times. He bites her. He actually bites her. And there's blood on her clothes from his bite. This animal should be hanged in Connaught Place, but never mind. Now, all this I'm saying is because there is no check. The police took 12 hours finding the office of Uber in India. Would you believe this? Delhi police is not that stupid. And they've got DNA, they've got clothes. And again, lawyers, how cute they are. One fellow is saying without DNA testing and all that, but they've got the clothes of the woman and that. I take my hats off to this unknown lady. She has again changed the history of India. In the studio, we have ex-taxi driver by experience, my friend Syed Hassan, who was singing songs with me 10 minutes ago, and now in the studio. What is the difference between being a taxi driver, as I've described this guy, and you? Why can't you commit this kind of offense? Should be. If he was my taxi driver and I know this guy as my friend, I would put my sister in that cab, my mother, my daughter, all in one. No worry. But this business of internet, I mean, I love the internet for information, but I don't use the internet for buying. Honestly, if I need to buy an iPhone, I'll go and check up the iPhone and everything. And then I buy on the internet. But even then, I'm not sure how will I return it if it goes bad. So are we going too far into the virtual place just to save a few bob and take all the risk of rape, murder, pillage? What do you think, Daniel?
Well, big business doesn't really have any concerns about personal safety. They're more interested in getting the profit. They're getting the profits. They're getting the questions answered to the board members that they're making more and more money.
So it's about stocks and shares.
People at risk. Uber obviously is not going to worry about putting people at risk. It's worried about putting money in the pockets of the directors and the shareholders.
Absolutely.
Therefore, here in England, if they have it, if they go on and Uber want to get involved in England, obviously a lot of people in the taxi business are against it, especially the
because it's taking their because say to get a taxi, how much does it cost?
I think it's about £2 a mile or something.
No, how much does it cost you to run a taxi, a license plate?
It costs a lot.
What? Tell us.
It's a few £1,000s a year for the whole works, because you've got to have it inspected every year, sometimes twice, and it's about £300 for each inspection. Of course, on top of that, you've got your expenses of tax and all the rest.
Of course, yeah.
It's quite expensive.
So, to be a taxi driver, physically you cannot have diabetes, or if you have type 2 diabetes, you cannot have type 1. I can have diabetes type 1 and drive my car, my personal car. But when your public safety is being put in your hands,
it's an insurance requirement.
It's an insurance requirement. Yes, your license
and you have to have a medical inspection, which 7 years ago used to cost £100. It's probably more than that now.
Yeah.
And the doctor issues a full report on your health conditions and certifies that you're able to drive a taxi and look after the passengers as well.
So your physical and mental health is looked into.
Absolutely.
You cannot just be anyone and ill and kind of just about manage.
No, and in Britain we have the CRB, where every driver's record is fully checked. But that's when I discovered that people who are coming from the continent, they don't have a CRB over there. So there could be murderers and rapists from Latvia, for example.
Get in, Daniel, get in.
But this has happened. I mean, it's been in the press. 2 or 3 Latvians have been caught out because they've committed offences here, criminal offences, and they were already known to be criminal people in their own country. So it was discovered a bit too late.
Daniel, please.
The good thing is about London, the black cabs in London have got to go through a vigorous process called the knowledge, where they'll have to learn about every street and you can try
Absolutely, yes.
city.
They've got to do a PhD on the road system.
Obviously,
no, but they have to know the roads, otherwise they'll take you round and round and you have to pay for it.
They've got to know the best, quickest route to offer the best service to the passengers. Now, obviously, the black cabs can be expensive, and we know mini cabs are a lot
But
cheaper.
they're safe. I'd rather
But
put my...
You are safe in a
Yes.
Hackney carriage. You are
Yes.
safe in a London taxi cab.
Yes.
Other people, other mini cab firms, especially in London, when I used to live in London, obviously there's good mini cab firms and there's bad. You know, there are some very bad ones I experienced when I was living in London, and some good ones, but one thing for certain, if I valued my safety, if I valued my quality of journey, I would always get a black cab.
It doesn't matter if it costs a few pounds more.
Yes.
I'll tell you the exact opposite. I was in Soho and I flagged down what looked like a taxi. It didn't have plates. And I said in Urdu, "Aap taxi hain? Are you a taxi?" He said, "Yes." He was an Afghani fellow running a taxi service without paying anything. And his rates was half. But that is the Uber story, isn't it?
Well,
I don't know who's taking me, whether the car is MOT'd or not, whether the brakes will work or not, whether he'll kill me or not.
Uber's trying to steal money off hard-working taxi drivers.
Yes, yes. And the reason for, yeah, well, it's like selling a boot hooch on the side.